Like this. Hit it.
The Roger Report live morning show. Weekdays at 9 a.m.
Say y'all, I was on Roger's panel a few times and I couldn't take it. The heat. I got out the kitchen. It was hot. I was sweating. I had to get out.
He's Roger, and he's right.
Check this out.
We can live or die. You choose. I have spoken to you a lot of times in hatred and anger, and you have not heard me. Well, you had better hear me today. If you won't listen to me when I make an appeal for the Negroes because you have no concern for the Negroes, listen to me when I make an appeal for America. You claim you love America. Well, we love America. But you are driving us back and you are making a Samson out of us, and we are going to pull down the pillars. And then you think we have no right to ask for something? Is it too much to ask you to grant us human dignity? Should we be put down and shot to death for this request? If so, you can aim your guns. What the hell do you think we care about dying if you're going to deny us the right to live?
Good morning, folks, and welcome to another edition of the Roger Report Live, the best show on social media. If you are new to the channel, go ahead and take a moment out to hit that like button, because this is where you're going to find the best content on social media, and you don't have to worry about it because you're going to have me right here to make sure that happens. And if you've already been coming to the channel for a while, then go ahead, hit that like button, because you already know what time it is. And you know that this is where you're going to get the best content on social media. It's not a mystery to you at this point. You've seen other people do it. You've seen some other people do it well, but what you have not seen is anyone do it quite the way I do it. So make sure you hit that like button, and everyone, yes, everyone, take a moment out to share the content, y'all. There are so many people who need to get great content like this, and it's just a small thing you can do to help the world be a better place. And isn't that what we want at the end of the day? Don't we want the world to be a better place? Of course we do. So share the content out. Share it through your social media. Share it through word of mouth, or even take someone's phone. But do what you got to do to help spread the word. All right, folks, today we have a very interesting subject matter, as we regularly do. We ain't gonna give you no bad subject matter. We got a interesting thing that's been happening. Y'all, we gonna deal with nursing today. Now, this is something that could affect each and every one of us, because, hey, generally everybody gets sick. Well, not even generally. Who doesn't get sick? Who doesn't get hurt? At some point in time, if you live in America, you will be dealing with a nurse at some point. Most folks would have dealt with nurses before they even realized what was going on, because you was a baby once. Nursing, you're going to deal with. So we're going to look at nursing, y'all. 0 degrees of separation. This going to be interesting. This should be interesting, okay? But before we get too far into this, first of all, I want to take a quick moment to shout out all the people who climb up to the channel to give me views on a regular basis. I appreciate each and every one of y'all, because as I try to get out the good word, it's great to know there's solid people here on a regular basis to receive the good word. So shout out to every single one of y'all. Shout out to everybody who hits that like button, because y'all know that helps with the algorithm, helps spread the channel, helps spread the channel, helps spread the channel. Shout out to all the people who hype me up. You should do that every chance you get, of course. Hype me up every chance you get. That's just real talk. And shout out to the people who go above and beyond the Call of Duty, people who drop a little something in the bucket on the way in, on the way out. Sometimes when I'm not even live, whenever you do it, shout out to everybody who becomes a financial contributor at the Roger Report Live, because you allow me to do things in a way that I would not be able to do without you. So shout out to each and every one of y'all. And I want to give a special shout out to a great young man, Black Wealth and Power. He is the sponsor of today's stream. Shout out to Black Wealth and Power. He is a sponsor of today's stream. Shout out to you, my brother. Shout out to you. Glad that you've been a part of the channel for such a good little while. Shout out to you, my brother. Y'all, and let me give some shout outs to some of the first people to check in this morning. Okay, shout out to the people who come in. See, when you start a show, it's always great. You see, you got a few people, who got your back. They ready for you. They ready to go. It's a great thing. But over here at the Roger Report Live, y'all should know there can only be one. So shout out to my main man, Trail Bentley, who's done it again. He is the Highlander of today's stream. Shout out to you, my brother. Shout out to you. Of course, he comes through representing hashtag long live habitual line steppers, hashtag Negroes in the wilderness, hashtag dignity over vagina, hashtag Al Gore's babies, hashtag Hell Hydra. Shout out to you, my brother. Shout out to you. Always great to see you in the building. Always great to see you. We got the Great Black Reset in the house. Good to have you, brother. Good to have you. We got Capri 10 in the building. Shout out to you, my brother. Great to have you. Great to have you. We got my main man, shout out to the pit crew itself, but we got my main man, Chef Mike's Roundtable in the building. Good to have you, brother. Good to have you. Thanks for all that you and the pit crew do. Shout out to Afro Merchant. I see you in the house. Great to see you. Great to see you. Trust is here. Shout out to you, sister. The darling of the channel is in the building. Always great to see you. Always great to see you. Shout out to Inspired True Broadcast. What's up, my brother? What's up? Good to have you. Floyd Thompson is here. Yay, yay. Good to have you, brother. Good to have you. We got Tutter Runner in the house. Great to have you, brother. Great to have you. Bruce on Wayne is here. Shout out to you. The Righteous Teacher is also in the building. Good to have y'all. Good to have y'all. Y'all, we gonna get into this one, y'all. And yes, there's some very different places that you can go with stuff like this. And y'all, I looked into some of the stuff and why, these reactions that people have been having. Some of these ladies who work in the healthcare field are truly pissed off. Shout out to Dolomite. Dolomite just pulled up. Glad to have you, brother. Glad to have you. Okay. Lord have mercy, y'all. It's gonna be crazy out here, y'all. It's gonna be crazy out here. Now, I put a link in the description. I just put one link in there because it's a lot of people with a lot to say. And there's a lot of women in the healthcare field at different levels, and they are highly pissed off right now. Okay, it's a lot of them that are highly pissed off. Okay, shout out to Afro Merchant. He says it right now. He say Trump administration not playing. Y'all, a lot of them are looking at Trump like, hey, what's going on? Okay, what? If you listen with your third ear, you can hear him saying, what you talking about, Willis? If you listen with your third ear. But Willis is Trump this time, y'all. They blaming him. But it looks like nursing, okay, a whole lot of nursing will no longer be considered a professional degree. And a lot of people getting pissed. I personally find it quite interesting that so many people got pissed because it's not classified as a professional degree. And truth be told, it seemed like it was the worst part of it. Okay. Now I went out to see what the people are saying. I was like, okay, cool. You know what I'm saying? Let's hear what they got to say about this particular subject. Yeah, and yeah, a lot of these women, different levels of nursing. There's different types of nurses. They weren't cool. They weren't cool. Okay. Now there were some women who say they were going to attend some schooling to become a nurse, but they're changing plans right now. Okay, they're changing plans. You know, they say it's a nursing shortage going on in America. I heard the number 230,000 estimated in shortage. So you got almost 250,000 shortage of nursing in America. And at this particular point, people believe, at least in the short term, a lot of folks who were going to be a nurse are now going to decide to do something else. Okay. Now, am I going to say they're wrong? No, 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 no. When things like this come up, it could change it could change someone's plans. It could change someone's plans. So, a lot of people say they're going to do this, they're going to do that. Sometimes people actually going to do the stuff they say. Now, I understand that, it's hard to tell if a person was going to do it if they say they're going to do it, but ain't necessarily started it yet. I do get that. But there's people who are actually going to go into that may now change their mind because of what's going on. And you know what? I'm going to say this, y'all. I heard a few people throw out the fact that one of the bigger issues, which they kind of saved for last, so it didn't even seem like it was the bigger issue for them. But they said, hey, this means they only going to give you so much money on the loan if you want to go to school to be a nurse. And they're going to cap it at $20,000 a year. Okay. And people start throwing out prices of these schools they got to go to, or these schools they would like to attend to get this degree. Yeah, it was a far cry from 20,000. Far cry from 20,000. Okay. So I do believe this could make some people definitely have some interesting decision making to do in the future. Okay. Shout out to Floyd Thompson. He says, Roger, the 300,000 women that got laid off from the Fed that can fill the gap with 100,000 surplus. Woo! Floyd, what you doing, bro? Floyd, what are you doing, bro? Floyd, what you doing down there, man? Floyd, you some kind of politician? Did you solve the nursing? Did you solve the nursing gap instantly? Is that what you did? Or at least gave a theory of what could solve it immediately? Is that what you're doing? Floyd, what? Who you work for, Floyd? Who you work for, Floyd? I think Floyd might need a raise, y'all. Floyd, I don't know what you do, but you might be wasting your talents, and you might need to go on to South Beach and you might need to get into the black house. We need to get you a black house, man. You out here taking care of national business, like it's nothing. We got to bottle that. But real talk, y'all. Real talk. It's some people getting real pissed off right about now. Okay, some people is getting real pissed off right about now, and there are people with some concerns. Okay, there are some people with concerns, and let's be real, y'all. Not that anyone's looking forward to it, but if we take a true estimate of ourselves, at some point in time, more than likely, we'll probably need a nurse in the future. Okay, the average person will probably need a nurse in the future. Okay, and that's just what it is. So, I guess we need to be nice to nurses. Now, As I look through people having issues with it. Now, when I heard about it myself, I said, okay, I heard it, nurses won't be considered professionals anymore. It didn't mean anything to me. I'm just going to keep it real. It didn't mean anything to me. Okay. All right. So my thing is, okay, what's the big deal if they're not going to be considered professionals? Honestly, I was like, who cares? Okay. Now, just because something don't strike me immediately doesn't mean it doesn't matter. Okay. We're not going to do that. Okay. It doesn't mean it does not matter. So I start thinking, now don't get it twisted, y'all. There's a lot of people out here in the world who they see a separation. And y'all, I've said many, many, many a time, and I'm gonna make sure I start saying a lot more in the future, y'all. I say one of the two main issues black people got to do is, number one, accept that life is not fair. Okay. And I've also said we got to get past our own egos. All right. We got to get past our own egos. I'm going to say, based on what I've seen and some of my first thoughts with some of the first reaction that I've seen with people saying something about nurses, y'all, I think this is a very much an ego situation. Okay, this is very much an ego situation. I'm not saying there ain't other parts that count to some, but based on what I can tell, the ego is the most crucial piece. Okay, the ego is the most crucial piece. Shout out to Dolomite. He said they mad their ego taking a hit. Dolomite, I'm gonna say there's a lot of evidence of that out there, brother. There's a lot of evidence of that out there. That's what I have seen. Whole lot of evidence of that. Okay, real talk. I'm not saying they don't have a reason to say something, but there's a lot of evidence that this is about ego. Okay. Shout out to the Great Black Reset. He said it matters to them, Roger. This immediately affects their degree count. Now, now I'm gonna say this. You know what? That's a good point. Their degree count. But I'm going, just throw a little something out there. If you got the degree, you already got it. You already got it. They can't take the degree from you. They reclassify something. They can't take it from you. Okay. All right. They can't take it from you. Shout out to Magna Void Son Dominus, okay, or Elder Blood, as we say. He says, Roger, fire. Don't y'all find it scary that black women dominate in healthcare industry while at some time they dominate in black baby deletion? This is feigning pro-life while leading pro-death. Ooh, that's a very interesting. I hadn't thought about that one. I'm not gonna lie. I ain't thought about that. That's very. I mean, wow. That's two very opposite ideas going on at the same time. But hey, you talk about sisters though. That can happen. That definitely can happen. But that's very interesting though. That is very interesting. Whoa. Okay. Shout out to you for that one, brother. Now, I'm gonna say I don't think that can be denied. I definitely don't think that can be denied. Okay. Now. Shout out to Dolomite. He said, "Get out of there. You're noticing too much." Now, look, y'all. Nurses are important people. Okay. I'm gonna say there are some nurses who overvalue themselves. Okay, real talk. There are some nurses who overvalue themselves. As I listened to some of the things these folks had to say, I think that I guess he would be Asian, that Asian gentleman, when he said that if the doctors were gone, the nurses would keep this stuff going on for a while. But if the nurses left, there'd be an immediate crash. You know, I'm like, okay, okay. Tell us how you really feel. Okay, okay. I don't think the reclassification of of someone's degree changes, them being there or not being. I don't think that was the intent per se. Okay. Now I'm not gonna say it ain't, because there's a lot of theories out there, y'all. There's a lot of theories. Some women are upset, saying that changing what's going on with nursing is somehow taking away a woman's independence. Yes, y'all. This was said. A woman's independence. So basically, her theory is, and I ain't gonna just say her like it was one person. It was a lot of women's theory where you reclassify nursing into non-professionals, and somehow this is an administration attack on women being able to achieve some level of independence. They're saying that this is about a woman's right to choose what kind of life she wants to live. And I guess a lot of people have agreed that this is about women not going into the workforce, and all of a sudden they will now be barefoot and pregnant. That's the other option. It was like become a nurse or be barefoot and pregnant. Now, is this gonna make any nurse lose a job? I don't see how. I'm being realistic, y'all. I'm being realistic. Is any nurse gonna lose a job because nursing was reclassified? I didn't see nobody get fired because of a reclassification. I just don't see that happening. Now, maybe it's happening somewhere, and I'm just not aware. Maybe I just never came across it, because you got different types of nurses. When you think about nurses, I would assume most of us would think about nurses working in maybe a hospital. There's nurses who work in all kinds of areas when you think about it. There's nurses who work at hospitals. There's nurses who work at nursing homes. There's they have things called independent living for some older folks who, not as not they don't get around how they used to. You got people at the end of life. You got hospice nurses. You got folks who have in-home nurses, because there's some people out there. They got a little bread, they got a little bread, and they get their own nurse. Nurse come live with you for a while, until, a person gets better. But usually in a situation like that, that nurse gonna stay there for a while until someone passes away. So it's different types of nursing out there. I'm not gonna act like I know every single type of nursing, but there's a lot of different types of nursing out there. All right. And nursing can be a pathway to getting a lot of bread. Okay. Nurse can be a pathway to getting a lot of bread. You can make some good money as a nurse. You can make some real good money as a nurse. So is this about getting women back into the house? Is it about getting her in front of the stove? Is this about some white women having babies? Because, when people say theories like that, I know you ain't talking about black folks. That's that number one. Black people ain't really in that conversation. They ain't talking about us like that. Okay, they not talking about us. You telling me, you got to pick between being a nurse and being a stay-at-home mom? Because that's how they made it sound. I'm just saying, that's how they made it sound. Okay, now nurse or stay-at-home mom, like there's nothing in between. Nothing. In these great United States, there's nothing in between. Shout out to the Great Black Reset. He says, "Come on, Roger. Nursing certificate doesn't have the same ring as nursing degree. Notice the small notice the small N." Well, I'm gonna say this, look, have you ever been sick? Okay, and you found yourself in a hospital or something, or if you found yourself in need of a nurse, okay, or a nurse being part of your program to get you back healthy, okay, they part of your program to get you back healthy, whatever that happened to you, because we got folks who dealing all type of stuff. Somebody was riding a motorcycle and somebody hit them, boom, bad injuries. Somebody out there and fell off a ladder, bad injuries. Somebody just simply caught a disease, got very sick. A lot of stuff happens where people can end up using a nurse. Now, I've used a nurse in the past, y'all. I'm actually a real person. I've been to a hospital, okay? When you're under a nurse's care, okay, I'm gonna be realistic, y'all. Being under a nurse's care, okay, because you're under your doctor's care and you're under your nurse's care. Did I ever think about where my nurse got her degree from, or what certificate she had, or anything like that? Did it cross my mind? Okay, what kind of certificate or degree she had? Honestly, no, never crossed my mind. If something were to happen to me in the future and I needed a nurse in the future, while I'm getting myself taken care of, while I'm under these doctors' care or these nurses' care, am I going to really have a thought about their school situation? Am I going to have a thought about what degree they have? Was it classified as professional or non-professional? Realistically, no. These thoughts are not going to cross my mind at all. I'm going to assume that if I show up to a reputable medical facility, the nurses that are there are reputable medical professionals. Okay? Now, ego has a lot to do with status, y'all. I've noticed since I was young, I'm talking about, I don't even know if I was grown yet. Truth be told, I might have noticed this back. Yeah. You know what? Back in high school days. Because we were talking about careers and what people were going to do. There's a lot of folks out here who make a very big thing. They make it a big thing about being a quote unquote professional or a person who just has a job. This is a big thing for people. Let's keep that real, y'all. There's a lot of people who want to make a distinction. They say, I'm a professional, but you just got a job. You don't have a career. A lot of people do that. Now, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's right. I've never actually cared about this type of stuff. The only thing I care about was the money. And I'm just going to keep it real with y'all. That's the only thing I've ever cared about. The money. Does it make sense to do these particular things to get this kind of money? That's what I've thought about. I've never really cared about what you think about a job. What do you think is a career or whatever? Do I do this thing so I can get this money? To me, that's all that mattered at the end of the day. Now, I understand this may matter to people, but even a person who this matters to, do you get sick and not go to a nurse because they're not a professional any longer? If they're not considered a professional, do you not want your healthcare treatment? Is it like that for you? Because I'm gonna just tell you the truth. If something happened to me, God forbid, and I end up going to the hospital and I need some nurse, I don't care whether you consider them professionals or not. It's not gonna even cross my mind. I don't actually care. I just don't. I don't care now. I doubt I care in 10 years. I seriously doubt I care in 20 years. If it's 50 years, matter of fact, if it's 60 years from now, and I need nurse care basically all day long, am I going to care whether my nurses are considered professionals or not? Absolutely not. I'm not going to even be thinking about this stuff. But obviously, this is a much bigger deal to people than it initially was for me when I heard about it. Because it was like, oh, okay, whatever. All right, now, If you're not a professional, does this mean you're a bad person? Because y'all, I'm gonna keep it real. When I looked at how people were responding to this, it was almost like somebody saying, if you're not considered a professional, you're not a good person. Okay, not a good person like the Keisha was yesterday from yesterday's show. Like she one of those police. She was. Her and her people was good people. She really wanted them to know. You know, that's how this came across to me. Now I understand when people finally brought up the thing about some money. Okay, well, you only gonna get 20,000. As far as a loan is concerned, if you want to become a nurse. Okay, I can understand that part because see, I can count. Okay, I can count, so that part I can understand. All right, but it seemed like that wasn't even an issue for too much of anybody. Okay, it's a few people who kind of made it like it was an issue to them, but for the most part, it seemed to be this about how people feel. I don't think the average person is going to say, well, I'm not going to hospitals anymore because this reclassification is just, I just don't feel right in my spirit. I'm not going to go get medical care because nurses have now been reclassified. I don't think anybody's really trying to do that. All right. Now, again, if you can't afford a particular program and you have to go through more traditional means, such as going to a bank to try to get a loan to become a non-professional nurse, does this mean you're gonna be barefooting in the kitchen all of a sudden? I don't know that that's gonna happen. I mean, I think for a person who wanted to go into nursing, it's gonna make some choices a little bit more difficult. Now, I guess the question is how bad you want to be a nurse. Because if it's really what you into, I guess you're gonna at least try to make a way. But if it's not what you're really into, maybe you don't attempt to make away that much. Maybe all you really want to do is make a little bit of bread, and somebody told you if you become a nurse, you can get some money. Okay? Maybe that's what the driving force is for a lot of folks. If you become a nurse, you can get paid. Now, I'm not tripping about a nurse getting paid, but I am gonna say I do want my nurses to care a little bit. I get it. I get it when you if you're under medical care, you want your medical professionals to care a little bit about what's going on. If you have to make decisions about the human body, you want somebody who's qualified, who actually is into what they're doing to make these decisions about the human body. Because if you catch something too late, it can have great impact on you. Early diagnoses are always good. I mean, I can appreciate a nurse making some money so she can be comfortable doing the thing that she wants to do. Okay, but if you're getting into nursing because you're just simply trying to get $1, I mean, I'm not saying that's gonna make somebody not good at their job. It's just when you think about healthcare, you want people who care. Okay, you want people who care. All right. Now, I'm gonna say this. If they're making it much more difficult for someone to become a nurse, and you got nurses out there who it was some nurses that different levels of nurses that were clearly upset about what's going on. I'm just trying to figure something out because I understand there's always a little bit of supply and demand going on. Okay, there's always some type of supply and demand going on. If you are already a nurse and there's a shortage on nurses, I'm thinking this may be an opportunity for y'all to get paid a little bit more money. Okay? Because they're not gonna, you're not gonna have new nurses popping up every day if they're making it more difficult for people to become a nurse. Supply, demand. Okay, y'all gonna get paid some good money. Okay, y'all gonna get paid some good money. I mean, they say certain nurses make good money already. Y'all can really run the table now. Y'all can really run it. they're kind of keeping the competition away from you. Now, I'm not surprised at anything like this because I understand the way politicians move, the way certain people have always moved. You know, you got to think about, okay, are they saving nurses for the elite? Is this going to be a profession for elite people who already have money? Because are we now going to put this to people who, oh, they already come from money. Their family already got it. So now they can afford to become a nurse. You know, because that whole bank loan situation could be problematic. But I'm also say this, then I'm going to give it to a guess. Is the federal government doing this because people not paying back on them loans? Because I got to consider from that part too. If they loaning you money and people ain't paying back the loans, is the federal government making a decision that this is not a good loan practice because we're not getting paid money back? Now, if you got to start considering things like that, I want my president to do a good job. Truth be told, I would prefer balances. I prefer a balanced budget. That's me. You know, I prefer a balanced budget from my president. That ain't his money. That's our money. And I do believe when you're in charge of somebody else's money, you should be trying to balance budgets. Now, I understand that can be an impossible task in the world of politics, but I do believe that is not your money. That's our money. So you should be trying to balance budgets. And if people ain't paying back loans the way they need to pay back loans, then maybe it's not a good idea to loan it to them in the first place. Now, I can't say that's not a real thought. Okay, I can't say that's not a real thought, and I understand somebody may say, Roger, you ever think how this might affect you one day? Nobody cares about me for the most part, y'all. I mean, I want y'all to honestly know that I have friends and family, and basically that's where it stops. So anything that goes on, I come from a perspective people don't care about me in the first place. So if you asking me how I'm supposed to respond, because I think this may affect me, things affect me. I mean, who cares at the end of the day? I mean, I'm over that, y'all. I've been over that for decades. I know people don't really care about me. So it's just about what's good for the country, what's good for the people. I do want to, I would like America to not owe folks money. That's just me personally. Maybe y'all don't see it that way. You know, you got a little bit more power when you don't owe a bunch of folks. So yeah, it could affect me one day. I already know people don't care whether it affects me or not. I know that's not even to be considered. I am a black man raised in America, y'all. I am not rich. I don't come from no family, and everybody know their name and all that. So I got to deal with regular life too. Okay, I got to deal with regular life too. Like, this ain't finna make much of a difference to me. Okay, and you could say, hey, well, what if you get sick tomorrow? What if you diagnosed with something tomorrow? What if they tell you got cancer tomorrow? How's this gonna affect me? If I got it, I got it. This ain't finna really change much or nothing for me. Okay, real talk. This ain't. I don't wish nothing bad on people. You know what I'm saying? I don't like to see people hurt and all that type of stuff. But I know for me, this ain't really finna change squat, and that's just what it is. Okay, but let me go and give it to my guest. We have the Honorable Donald J. Slaps, who is now he's now at the podium. You got it, my brother. You got it.
Good morning, Roger. Happy Tuesday to everybody, except Roger. That's Roger's fault. Roger walked up to me and said, "We finna do this."
Okay.
We about to do this.
Now don't tell him that. Technically, we were still backstage.
Yeah. We about to downgrade them funky degrees to nothing. Roger gave me the idea and said, How about we take away these degrees, these stupid trinkets that they be using to claim that you're strong and independent and don't need no man. Meanwhile, those same people who claim that they don't need no man, they're still looking for maximum providers. You know, the man has to still earn more, even though he's earning way past high six figures. But the men still have to earn more. I'm thinking to myself, why do you have a job? Why should we give jobs to these folks when they gonna turn around and expect men to buy them stuffs to provide for them? How about the men get these jobs? You know what I mean? I'm starting to really think that we're gonna have to do either two things: either cap the female salary to $30,000 a year before taxes, or we take away all their jobs and give it to the men and let it sort itself out. You know, you give the men the job, the man who has good jobs with high paying, who makes a lot of money, they can even have one wives and three side pieces. That'll be nice. Those who earn less, they can have, like, I don't know, a wife, one wife, and they be all right. At least the money will be equally distributed. We will understand why the hoes would need a provider since they don't have the job. You got these Cheerios. On one hand, they have jobs and they're still begging for money, still begging. Like, what do you want? You got a job. You get paid every Friday. You make good money. You have a nice car. You have a nice condo. How about you? How about you deal with men who might be earning less, but they are quote unquote emotionally intelligent? Men who are quote unquote understanding, who rub your back even though he's earning minimum wage. What's wrong with that? No. They want good jobs and also they want their hypergamous nature to be satisfied. It doesn't work like that. There is not an infinite amount of good paying jobs or high paying jobs so that 100% of the men can get them and 100% of the women can get them. And also, simultaneously, not only they all get high paying jobs, the men also have to get even higher paying jobs than them. You see, we have to admit that this experiment has failed. We can no longer run this stupid social experiment where we are terraforming the world or the environment to suit these retards. Something has to be done, and I'm going to do it as Donald J. Slaps. Thank you.
Okay. Now I'm gonna say shout out to Positive Vibes. Positive Vibes says this is scary. Positive Vibe, would you like to just so I can have an idea of where you're coming from, would you like to expand on that a little bit so I can just have some form of idea of why you see this as scary? What's so scary about this? And I'm not saying you're wrong to say this is scary. I'm just curious. But let's turn it over to the great Floyd Thompson, who in the chat had already solved the nursing issue. He already solved the nursing shortage in theory. So we got a great man here, right here. Floyd Thompson, you have the podium, my friend.
Tribute Tuesday, Roger, my brother. Donald J. Slaps, I agree with you. These women are very hypergamous. And long live their different line steppers. JJ, I see this is a case of some lines being stepped over that these women want to still maintain. And looking at this thumbnail, Roger, these old women, I don't think they can make a good sandwich. And I think that's why they're mad. And Tyler Vibes, that is scary. That is scary because these poor women might not be able to make a good sandwich. And they don't want to go back to, I think this case, we in this economy, which I've learned from a mentor that helped me come up with that idea. I did see that video before, and I mentioned something to him about it, and he's like, "This, here's his idea. It wasn't mine. 300,000 people got laid off. 300,000 can be nurses. For the current nurses, they probably still keep their same pay, and they do suffer burnout. My old lady, she worked at the hospital, emergency. So they do suffer burnout. And a lot of them care, but then a lot of them don't care. But then you got to take into consideration what they kind of back a little bit and go to the roll of the streets, and you got to think about the scary thing. But what's scary is actuality that some of these nurses do drugs, some of these nurses overdose of all the things they tell us to stay away from. There's probably cases where they found nurses dead in the hospital from overdoses. They're too stressed about it. And so their demeanor or emotional intelligence as far as dealing with people on a longevity scale has burnt out. And the new folks, I kind of agree with some of the things they're saying. Cap how much money you can have as far as loans, just to see who really wants to do the profession, but not change the profession into a job. I mean, I work for city government, bro. This ain't a profession. It's a job. You know what I'm saying? The management, they have the careers. Once you get into upper management in some of these jobs, that turns into a career. They're trying to see who wants to earn a career. And I think it's gonna die down. And also with the economy, man, we have to have some deflation a little bit too, outside of this inflation. That's part of the whole economy situation. And, hey, I'll land my plane there, man. I'll get the clouds.
All right. Now I'm gonna address this real quick. I'm gonna say shout out to Conscious Moron, and I haven't noticed you here before. Maybe you have been, maybe you haven't. I don't know. But you say all these women in America still can't get a woman. It's not the women. Conscious Moron, look, I'm gonna say it. I personally believe anybody who's talking about men who can't get women, y'all are probably the men who couldn't get women. Because if you're black, and since this is a black-centered show, most people are really kind of referring toward black people for the most part. Where did y'all grow up and these people didn't get women? Now, this ain't the subject of today's show. I think y'all say that because that was y'all life at some point, and it might be y'all life now. Because I just don't know of men who just can't get women. When y'all reduce things to that, I think you're telling on yourself. You just haven't paid attention to it. And it also says, it does say a lot about you because you think everything is about some guy getting a woman. If that's your worldview of how to be a man, which it must be for y'all to say stuff like that, I'm just going to say you got a sad little worldview. But you do have a right to. You do have not saying you don't have a right to think that way, but how did you get the ideal in the first place? Because I swear, I've never heard about brothers who couldn't get women until I got to the internet. And that's just crazy. But y'all have at it, though. Y'all have at it. Now, y'all, I'm going to say this. I've heard more than one person say, well, they're taking the professionalism from the degree so women would end up back in the kitchen. I don't understand how that works. I don't get that math. There's a lot of jobs you can do in America. Okay. Maybe if you want to be a nurse, I can understand how this may really do something particular to you. If you're a person who's not a nurse and you want to become a nurse, I can understand how this could affect you. Okay, I can even consider somebody who's already in the field, but they want a higher degree in the field. They want a different position. They want to move up in the field. I can see how this could somewhat affect them. But for a random woman to say, hey, well, you know what? I don't like the pathway to becoming a nurse. Is she going to be in somebody's kitchen? No, she just pick another job. That's it. I think a lot of folks who believe a woman's going to end up back in somebody's kitchen, well, that's the idea. It's going to be like the 1950s or something, or the 1940s, where you had white women who were at home. Because let's keep it real. When black men been trying to keep black women at home so they don't have to deal with the world, white men didn't agree to this. White women didn't agree to this. And black women don't agree to this. So no matter what black men want to do to make sure their woman don't have to necessarily deal with the world, black women ain't down for that no way. So you telling me a sister finna just not work if nursing ain't the profession she can go into?
Exactly. That doesn't make any sense. I mean they can go bust it wide open on some website. They can hit the pole. They can hit the blade. And they can set it for the low 40. They can do a whole lot of things. They don't have to go back to the kitchen. Who needs them in the kitchen anyway? They can fix nothing. They can even boil water.
Well, I mean, I don't see where some man is gonna put a woman in the kitchen who can't cook. You know what I'm saying, and just call it a day. I mean, it's possible, but what's the probability of that? Not much. Okay, but we're talking about somebody who's coming up in the world. You pick a job, you do something so you can make a living. Okay, now I'm gonna say this because like I said, there's a lot of people who are into the status of things. All right. I've never been into the status of things. You are professional if you make money at it. It's that simple at the end of the day. If you're a barber and you make money at being a barber, you're a professional. It's that simple. You could be a baseball player. If you make money at playing baseball, you're a professional. It's that simple to me. Okay. Now, I understand there are people who want to be viewed in a different way, and they want to be viewed as professionals, and it has a whole lot to do with their ego. What difference does it make?
Well,
Ain't the thing that makes a difference money? Ain't that what
no,
matters?
yeah, that's for men. But when you're dealing with these people, there's a level of status. They got to be proud to tell their friends. My husband is the VP president of this company. He owns this and that. He got me this necklace. They don't have the same pride as when they would say my husband is a master plumber. Either.
All right. Well, you know what? I can understand women having some issues with that. I'm not gonna say it makes sense. I'm not gonna say it ever makes sense to me. Truth be told, because you can have a surgeon. Okay, he makes a good amount of money. He don't make as much of it as a baseball player. So who better at the end of the day? Is the surgeon not as valuable as the guy who can play baseball? Because the guy who playing baseball, once he do that professional, now if he playing for let's say he playing for the Yankees, I'm pretty sure that anybody on the Yankees roster is probably making more than just about any surgeon. What surgeon making more than a Yankees player? Okay, and he ain't got to be a good Yankees player. Is he making more than that? Is that really happening? So why are we so worried about whether they classified as a professional or not? Can you do the job? That's what I want to know. Can you do the job? Because when I go into a hospital, the last thing I'm going to be thinking about is whether you're considered a professional or not. Can you do the job? Are you going to help me get better? That's what I'm here for. I'm not going to look at a woman in a certain way saying like, oh, well, she's not a professional. I don't want her working on me. Ain't none of us really finna do that. Ain't the health more important than what you classify the job as? But let me go ahead and give it to the great Black Reset, and let's see what he got on this. Go ahead, my brother.
Good morning. Good morning, fellas. Good morning. Can y'all hear me loud
Yes,
and
sir, we
clear?
can.
All right. See, I don't like how Roger up here being all disingenuous and acting like he don't understand the plight of our sisters out here in the nursing field. You know, they've been telling us for years they're the most educated and they got the most degrees and all that. And then here come Donald J. Slaps getting rid of most of their degrees. How they gonna keep telling brothers that they more educated than them? How they gonna stand on their high horse above brothers when now they gonna have to say, well, I'm certified in nursing instead of saying they got a degree. That matters, bro. It's their image. Their image just took a hit.
Oh, cry me a river.
It's bro, they gonna cry a river for you about this one here, buddy. I promise you.
They just can't
I
afford it.
promise you. If you take away the education degrees and turn those into certificates, they might all jump off a bridge together, bro.
Okay. Let me go ahead and build them a higher one.
But this is what it is. It's their image that's taking a hit. Like you said, it doesn't matter. Like lady, can you get the vein? Can you hit the vein for me? I don't care where you came from. You can come from DeVry. You can come from Columbia University. I don't care. Can you get the needle in the vein? That's all I want to know. But it's their image that's taking the hit. This is the issue. This is the problem because they've been giving men their butts to kiss about how educated they are, and now brothers can say, "Well, shoot, that ain't no degree." Now, anytime after 2026, you gotta ask these chicks, you want the new nurses or one of the old nurses? Which one you is?
You gotta also ask them, are you paying back your student loans?
Right.
Now, I'm gonna say this, y'all. I'm gonna say this because I'm trying to look at this in a very realistic view. I looked at how people are coming off, and some people seem to be somewhat okay, but I saw a lot of anger out there. I did see some anger out there. Am I going to look at you different because you're not a professional nurse anymore? I'm just saying the resounding answer to me is no. I went out and I asked some people, who were not in the nursing field, because I asked them why they were at their jobs. Okay? I said, what do you think this is going to do? You think this is going to be a big issue? A lot of people said no. Matter of fact, everybody I asked said no. I'm not going to really thinking about that. If I go to the hospital, I don't really care about, this whole group. I didn't ask anybody in the medical field. I'm let me make that clear. I specifically didn't ask anybody that I saw was in the medical field. I only asked people who were not in the medical field, do you care? Okay, if you worked at a restaurant, cool. Let me ask you. You worked at the gas station. Let me ask you. You worked at a convenience store. Let me ask you. So the people that's not in the medical field, we don't seem to care. I just want to know when I go to a hospital or something that the people in there know what they do. That's what people seem to care about.
But Roger,
okay?
Why should we let them keep borrowing money that they cannot pay back? That's irresponsible. That's predatory. We gotta put a cap on this thing to give them just enough money that they can pay back because they've demonstrated that they are bad deals. They are bad loaners. They take loans whenever they are in doubt instead of getting together with them and create a family. No, they go back to school and take 30, 40, $50,000 loans that they can't pay back. So what, you're a nurse? You're in debt. You know what I mean? I'm trying to help them. I'm Captain Save a Hoe today. You know what I mean?
Out of all people. Shout out to Trail Bennett. He said, the new rules also affect engineers too. If I wanted to get a doctorate in engineering, I would be limited in how much I could borrow from the government. Now, I'm going to say this, y'all. I'm going to say this. And I know a lot of people probably don't think about it this way. This what has always happened, y'all. Schooling has always been used as a separator between regular people and elite people. When regular people can do it, they use school to create a separation. When school started to matter, then it was college. When college started to matter, then it was what level of degree you had. Okay? The people who are elite are always going to try to keep other people from being elite. That's just the way of the world. Okay? And I guess because I've already realized this decades ago that that's the way of the world, when I see stuff like this, it don't really move me because I understand from a financial perspective, they're making it more difficult for other people to compete with the elite. That's the only thing I can say. But I'm going to keep it real, y'all. I didn't really see people homing in on the money part. Because to me, that would have made the sense. once I found out, oh, well, they capping what you can borrow, so this can make it harder for you to become this or that if you're not already in that field. To me, that's where the meat of it should have been, but that ain't where the meat was. It was people just mad, and then they'd throw something out about, well, everybody didn't even do it. A few people was throw something out about the money and how you couldn't borrow but only up to $20,000. And it's like they stuck it in to prove a point. Like, you didn't even care about that part. So it seemed like you got a bunch of folks upset about status. Like, your ego really mean that much to you? And I'm gonna say, yeah, it probably does.
Absolutely. Well, you've been telling us for years, black women care more about their image than anything else. They care about what people think about them. And this goes right to the heart of that. This is what people think about you. Oh, you got a certificate of completion? That's nice. No longer a topical conversation anymore.
So you mean to tell me they afraid that if they go to a dinner party or something, if they go to a family event, that they're gonna be upset because they can't, throw out some type of degree they have and sound better than other people? Are you telling me that's really what's going on here? Is that what it's come to?
100. That's what it's come to, boss. That's what it's come to.
Yep. And I hereby pronounce the death of Funky the Green.
Look, man, I'm not tripping on people's choices, but if I can pick between becoming a surgeon and becoming a professional baseball player, playing in the MLB, I do that surgery thing later. I'll come back to why? Because this baseball player, which I'm not gonna say is brilliant as a surgeon, but it's more money over here. That's all it is to it to me, man. It's more money over here. Can I perform in the major league? Well, if I can, I want to. Hey, it is what it is. Okay, it is what it is. All right, I can get back to doing surgery later on once I retire from baseball. Okay, it may be something I'm into and I want to do it anyway, but I can do that after I retire from baseball. It's just that simple to me. But let me give it over to Reese, because Reese has graced us with his presence. You got the mic, my brother. How you been?
Hey, Roger. Thank y'all so much for having this show today. I've been arguing this whole nursing cap, $100,000, $200,000 all week with different people in my family, in my friend circle, on social media. And what I realized talking to a lot of nurses, either in my circle or out of my circle, they don't really understand money management when it comes to planning their career. And what I've seen, they're arguing for points that don't make no sense to their career path, because most BSNs are under 100K if you go to a state program and go through 4 years. If you're trying to fast track, you usually get swindled with a quick fly-by-night private institution that'll promise you 2 years of training to get you the same degree. And when I'm talking to people, these are people who are coming out of you get your BSN and you're guaranteed minimum, say 65, 75K starting as a RN, right? And if you want to go get your master's degree, Roger, you're talking about a pay bump of 40K, sometimes 100. So with your undergraduate, you can guarantee you a job of 75. If you go after your graduate degree, 40K of more training, and then you usually can kind of get half of that covered what you got left. You're talking about a pay bump of 150K a year. What are they complaining about? This is an investment in their career.
And you know what, Reese? I'm glad you said that, because I'm gonna say, with those type of numbers, I believe you can pay your loan back. I don't know.
They're complaining they're complaining in their Mercedes. They're in cars with leather seats in the back, complaining about not getting access to graduate degree money. And they muddy the water. I'm like, sis, you making about 85 a year right now? You can't take out no private loan to cover back. You mean you get this right? You can take out a mortgage. You can take out a car note. You can't make an investment of $40K to get a pay bump of $50K for the rest of your life.
Hey man, if that silk press wig install wasn't $500, they would make the payment on them student loans. Y'all got y'all priorities messed up.
Priorities,
That's
baby.
what that is.
Priorities.
I'm gonna say, when you in charge of other people's money, I do believe you're supposed to do right. I can wreck my money because it's mine, and you can't really tell me nothing about it. It's my money. But if you make me the steward of your money, I'm not supposed to treat your money like I treat my money. And I'm just gonna say, from a governmental perspective, if they won't pay back the loans, as a taxpayer, do I think it's a good idea to loan them the money that they won't pay back? Now, anybody who's been watching me for a while, y'all heard me say stuff about the immigrants, all the illegal immigrants that were just getting money. And I'm sitting here in the city and I can't get my pothole fixed, but you can afford to pay people who ain't even supposed to be in the country. See, I'm very consistent, y'all. I'm very consistent. I'd rather my pothole get fixed than you give money to some foreigner who ain't even supposed to be here. Now, just because it's about nursing, and I understand nurses are important, because when you get hurt and you go to a hospital, you're going to want a nurse. I'm not saying that ain't the truth. But at the end of the day, the nurses got to pay back their loans too. What makes them special?
Roger. The social workers had a better argument than the nurses.
Yes.
The school teachers had a better argument than the nurses, because their starting salary coming out of an undergraduate is around $30K.
Yeah, 35, 40 at max.
They got a better argument for fighting for that. You know who was complaining the most online? Nurses. From what I saw.
And I know nurses who got in certain positions, and they was getting 92, 95, 97, like stuff like that. I cut a couple of them told me something around 85. So I know there's money in nursing, so it ain't like nurse mean you broke. So if you make 95 or anywhere near 95 and you're not a quote unquote professional, I don't understand why you care.
Brother.
But let me give it over to
I'll say one more thing. Brother, I was talking to a chick that was an anesthesiologist. She went back to school to go get her anesthesiologist. It's a lot of hard work. You got to have the right headspace. Roger, guess what the starting salary for that role is? Just guess. No.
Actually less than that.
Oh no. If you have a BSN, you go back to get your graduate degree as an anesthesiologist. Starting cap, depending on the part of the country you're in, is $175.
Wait, I'm sorry. You mean anesthesiologist as far as a doctor anesthesiologist or the assistant anesthesiologist?
The assistant.
No, they don't make that much.
It depends on the market that you're in.
I live in a place where it's highly valuable in my state, the state that I live in, where all the old people are. They don't make nowhere near that. You'd have to be closer to a doctor being an anesthesiologist to make that kind of money.
I'm in the Dallas market. I'll double check my numbers, but I saw salaries starting about $150.
Check it. It ain't that high. Not for them. For maybe the doctors. The doctors start. The anesthesiologists, a medical anesthesiologist, they start at minimum $250 out of college. But not the chicks that help them out, do the scans and all of that, make sure gas is good. They don't make that much. Here in Florida, 60, 65-ish. They don't do that well. They're like a nursing assistant. They're like an aide.
Wait. No. I want to understand what you're talking about. So I'm an RN, and I go to graduate school to get that certification. As an RN, I'm taking a pay cut.
To be a nurse practitioner for an anesthesiologist, or to be the aide that administers anesthesia during surgery?
Which one has the highest pay cap?
The nurse practitioner of an anesthesiologist.
Then that's the person I'm talking about. That's the person I'm referring to.
All right. They make a good grip. Yeah, they make a good grip. Nurse practitioner in any field, somewhere around 100 to 150.
Yeah.
No matter what specialty. But I was going to say this part of my opening. Those are basically one step from being a doctor. They can diagnose you and write you prescriptions, right?
You got to have the
So,
headspace for it. Yeah, you got to have the headspace.
Yeah, you do. Because you basically have almost all the responsibilities of a doctor. You just don't get his pay.
Yep.
Right? And you still have nursing responsibilities to handle. So I have direct family members who are nurses, multiple, I might add. I have 4 people related to me that are nurses. One of them is a director of nursing now. So
Is the biggest issue liability? Like if they do anything wrong, the doctor's still responsible. Is that the biggest gap? I might be getting that.
Well, it's still the doctor. So the doctor still does have final say. Yep. They have to get insurance just like the doctor does. So if they diagnose somebody incorrectly and write them the wrong prescription and something happens, their insurance will have to cover them. But there are certain diagnoses that they don't need the doctor's approval for. Some of the more serious ones they need the doctor's approval for.
Gotcha.
Right. Gotcha. So it's not all they're not free willy in it. They do have restrictions. But what I was going to open with, I mean, you spoke to some of the same things I was going to open up with. The problem is, and y'all mentioned it earlier. Well, 2 things. First of all, Roger, where in the hell did you get this thumbnail? And if this is what nursing is doing to our women, we have to stop this now. Where did you get these? Like prison mamas. What is this?
No, these are actual nurses.
I know. I know.
I was trying to show my people some love.
You got nothing but Big Macs up here. One of them look like a man. What is going on in the nursing field? What they producing?
I be trying to show my people some love. These are good, I would assume, hardworking nurses that go in and they slay that medical giant for us on a regular basis. These beautiful black women.
At first glance, I thought you took a shot at some prison lady. I swear, I thought they looked like they was locked up. I was like, why did jailhouse lady got her head done? What's going on?
You should have seen other options I got.
Oh, Jesus. So just to point out a couple of things. Just like y'all mentioned, this whole thing, they never said anything about pay deductions, right? This doesn't affect their salary at all. In any way, shape, or form. They're not going to start getting paid less. They're not going to be in less of a need for them. They're still going to be needed. They'll still hire a nurse as soon as if they can get their hands on one. So as far as their job security, this doesn't change anything for them. But you have these ladies complaining about, hey, I can't get money. I have to figure out another way to get money to become a nurse. I can only get this limit of 20 grand, right? To pay for nursing school. I can't get more. Fine. You a nurse now. Like one of the ladies was in her car. Y'all talked about her. She talking about she can't go be a nurse practitioner because there's a limit on the loan. I'm like, well, you're a nurse currently. You should be, your finances should be perfectly fine for you to continue your education. What's going on? Well, just like y'all said, it's a status thing, but not only just a status thing. They're trying to stoke fear in regards to changes that they don't want to see in regards to, for them to be responsible for their own actions. Because I don't know if y'all noticed, when that whole loan thing happened and they froze it immediately, man, a lot of these ladies was like angry as hell. Oh, why can't we get it? So basically, you just want us, the money that you promised you was going to pay, you want us just to forget that promise so you don't have to pay it? So what about the people who loaned you the money? What are they supposed to do? What? Nothing? You don't really care about that? So you don't want to be responsible for your own decisions. So what's going to happen is, if women can't get enough money because they're not responsible to go to school and manage their own education and manage your own finances, this will be problematic to get more nurses in who are irresponsible. Why would I want an irresponsible person managing my health? This is crazy. If you can't manage your own finances to get to the education, right? You don't want to have to work as hard as you need to get the education you want. So you cursing out the people who is going to give you charity to get it. They cursing out the church. Because they said, man, we can't bless you as much as we used to. We gotta pull some of that back, but here you can still have a little. They cursing out the church because he's saying you ain't giving me enough. Honestly, all right, I'm gonna finish with this. I don't know if y'all remember, but nurses were nothing more than a doctor's assistant. When did that become a profession?
Mhm. Mhm.
That's what a nurse is. Because you actually have CNAs. Those are below nurses. Nurses are doctors' assistants. They're there to assist the doctor doing his medical job for his patient. Since when are these two roles on par with each other? How is that even possible?
Okay.
I'll
Well,
stop it there.
I'm just gonna say, look, I think this might be a reaction. It's just my personal theory. I don't know, but I seen a lot of folks mad about this. I went and looked at how the nurses were saying this and the nurses were saying that. But like I said, I talk to regular everyday folk. They don't seem to care. They just care about their health. If they go to the hospital, they just want to be okay when they come out. Is this about paying back a loan? Because that's kind of getting in the back of my mind too. That maybe you feel like you ain't got to pay, because I think it might be a feeling. Maybe you feel like you ain't got to pay the government back the way you should, but maybe you afraid that you're gonna have to pay this bank back because that's gonna be real. That may affect your credit or something. I don't know. I don't get what the big deal is. It's just I'm not getting it myself because again, if I go to the hospital, I just want the people who taking care of me to know what they're doing. I'm not gonna worry about their backgrounds. I believe if you at this hospital, your background is certified for you to be here, and I should get good. I should get good health care. I'm not so concerned with whether you are called a quote unquote professional or not. But let me get a flow to Black Uru. And I think accounts was on that list too. I think accounts was on that list too. So I think the accounts may not be considered. I'm gonna have to double check, but I believe that accounts may have been on that list of things that are being declassified from being professionals. But what say you, my brother? What say you? I don't hear anything. Are y'all hearing something? Yeah, I didn't hear anything, Black Uru. Did y'all? Did either one of y'all hear him?
No, I didn't hear him.
Yeah, I saw him on mute, but I didn't hear anything. All right, so we'll just keep it flowing. We'll keep it flowing till he get back. Um, now I'm gonna say this, y'all. What do you really care whether a nurse is considered a professional or not? Is this really just about being able to throw something in a man's face? Is because I hear people saying that. Okay, you can throw something in a man's face about how you a nurse. If I'm not sick, I don't care anyway. What do I care about you being a nurse if I'm not sick? I don't get what so it's hard for me to register this stuff as a big deal. I just think it's just there's certain people who always put barriers between themselves with their family, their future children, and they try to put barriers between them and people who would be considered regular people or poor people. And I think this just may be another reclassification, that maybe nursing is going to go to the elites and the elites only because they get the only ones who can afford to do it. You know, they need some insurance that they're going to be okay. I mean, the healthcare field ain't going anywhere. Technology changes, different jobs changes, but the healthcare field gonna always be there because it's always gonna be humans. So maybe maybe they're pivoting nursing to go to the elite. That's what I'm thinking. But hey, I could be wrong. It's possible. It could happen. But Black Rule is back, so let's see if Black Rule is ready to go. You got it, my brother.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Roger. I hope you.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you now.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I guess I have some complex thoughts about this. Maybe a little more
I, I mean, first of all, I wasn't aware that nurses had exorbitantly high default rates on their student loans. Is that true, or are we assuming they do?
No, no, I'm leaving that to just an assumption because I went looking at a lot of reactions to this situation, and that was one of the things that was thrown out, that people are not paying back loans, but they just said
So
in general.
someone just is
Yeah,
making
they
an
said in general.
assumption
Yeah, they said.
because I mean, I don't, I mean, to me, that would be important. I mean, if we're going to have the debate about the issue of the money, then it should be, and this is being done for a broader government fiscal issue or financial issue, because there's these high, because they, like you said, there were listings of other professions, or they did include accounting. They're reducing the professional status or eliminating the professional status of positions that usually poorer and lower middle class people use to ascend to middle class and upper middle class. I mean, that's essentially, and the fact that a billionaire is over this process of doing this, the McMahon's wife or whatever. I just think that's just very interesting. It's a very interesting kind of classist sort of thing to happen. That we're going to reduce the status of the position of millions of Americans, and this is being done by billionaires, people who will never be in a position to have to concern themselves with health care. I mean, how many hearts? I think he died, I guess, a couple of months ago, right? Cheney. How many other people hearts did Cheney have before he died? I think it was like about 4. You know, he probably had some teenager hearts in his chest at some point. I find it to be very interesting. I find this whole thing to be very sort of dystopian in a way. I don't have a problem with nurses making a lot of money. I don't have a problem with people who might see people die on a daily basis, see people bleed out on a daily basis, see people scream in agony, and their family members perhaps begging for them to come back, or seeing a hole in somebody's body or missing. I don't have a problem with people who are in that position, on a daily basis, and all what may come with that, emotionally, mentally, the ethical decisions that you have to make. You have to leave these people because this person's gonna die anyway, whatever. I don't have a problem with people who may be in that position with some regularity being paid a lot of money. And I don't have a problem with them being considered to be professionals. And when I look at the cost of healthcare, it's not with the people primarily who actually provide the healthcare as the issue. It's all this administrative activity that has nothing at all to do with actually providing healthcare to people. All these managers and HMOs and all these rent-seeking positions in the healthcare profession that again provide zero actual tangible contribution to someone getting and staying well. I have much more. I take much more exception to their existence and how well they're doing financially than I do some nurse who may have to actually help people stay healthy and stay alive. So and I mean it. Black people, especially black men, have fairly high morbidity, high mortality rates, high diabetes, high hypertension, heart disease. we have disproportionately high health care issues. And so the thought of there possibly being some reduction in nursing where there's already shortages. I mean, there's never a surplus of nurses. And many, if not most of us at some point, we're going to be tended to by Black nurses to some degree or some number, just by proximity of where we may be getting clinical or hospitalization, especially in urban areas, et cetera. So we're going to have a higher chance of having, or probability of having Black nurses. I mean, I'm not sure if I don't know how it necessarily benefits Black people for there to be potentially fewer Black nurses. I don't see the benefit of that collectively. But I mean, hey, if it encourages you dudes to be, and maybe it should, if I were a younger man, and I'm thinking they're going to really start like kind of, sort of really kind of making the healthcare profession more of a sort of only people who have money or resources to get in. I would recommend you all really start to be a lot more mindful about your health and your nutrition, because chances are, if you get sick, y'all gonna be fucked in the future.
I think that's on point. Okay, I definitely think that's on point. There's a person who's adjusting to having to eat different and all that type of stuff. Because the last thing I want to do is go to a doctor and hear him tell me what I got to do. I don't want to hear that. Well, you got to do this over the next 6 months, or you may not be here no more. I ain't trying to hear all that type of stuff. So, as a person who's more health conscious now than I have been in the past, I already have to understand it. If my health is just too out of pocket, I'm dead anyway. So this stuff happening with the nurses, I don't think it's going to affect me at all.
I do want to ask a question, though. I want to ask a question. Why do we think it's going to reduce the number of Black nurses?
Well, I mean, if you have less money available to go into nursing, then your family wealth and or lack thereof is going to affect your decision making in terms of going into that profession. And then also, the profession is no longer a profession. Obviously, is going to affect your ability to get money, to get extra education, or maybe some master degree or some higher promotional opportunity in the profession. So, I mean, that's going to at some point begin to sort of factor in the decision-making process to go into the profession. Again, when you add to the fact that it's a very stressful profession, you're exposed to things, if there's a pandemic, for example, as there was about 5 years ago, you're going to be exposed to things and risk to life and health in ways and to a degree that the majority of people are not going to be exposed to. So there are lots of other areas. There are lots of other areas I would consider fine-tuning before I would do the healthcare profession. And I'm just looking at it from the perspective of Black people in particular. There's any significant number in percentage reduction of Black healthcare people, especially in the nursing or supportive areas, collectively, Black people are going to be impacted by it. That's for sure.
So I want to point out something. So I agree with everything that you just said. It's just one problem. 70% of what you just said has absolutely nothing to do with this change. You made mention of as if it would affect their pay if they're already nurses. It wouldn't. So the question would be,
I did not say that.
Hold on. Let me clarify. Let me clarify.
I've only talked about the people who might make the decision to go into nursing.
Correct, but you also
to someone will do now going forward. Now
right,
whatever.
But you referenced the difficulties of their job and what they would have to face, and if a pandemic happens, those are all people who are already nurses. Those are not people seeking to be nurses.
I'm not. Hold on now. I'm not just talking about the people who are already nurses, because
I understand.
I am considering going into the profession. I am going to consider what that profession is and what's going to be required, or what may potentially be required of my participation in that profession.
I completely understand. That's why I said 70%
to what is going to cost me to go in that profession, and how difficult it's going to be for me to get into and pay for that profession.
I completely agree. That's why I said 70% of what you said had nothing to do with the topic. Because the portion about getting into nursing, I completely agree with you on that. It will make it more difficult for them to get in. But that difficulty doesn't mean there isn't other options besides loans from the federal government. So the difficulty now is I am going to have to be more disciplined in order to obtain funding outside of the federal government to be able to become a nurse. I don't see that as a problem.
Well, look, I guess it depends on where that money is going to come from, because I don't see all these great alternative sources of funds for nursing education. I don't see that. Who's going to be motivated to provide those millions or hundreds of millions of dollars? Wells
Fargo Bank to someone who has a credit score of 785 or higher.
So then you're talking about a fairly small population of people and an extremely small population of Black people who qualify for that. And that's great for them. That's fantastic for them. But I dare say a lot of people who go, Black people in particular, who go into nursing will not, and choose and attempt to go into nursing, will not have a 750 credit score.
I don't disagree with you. Hence the reason. 785. Yeah, 785. Not 750.
You 750 ain't gonna do it. That gonna cut it.
And if you have
there's a reason why
you have a 785 credit score, you ain't going into nursing, you're going into surgery.
Thank you. Thank you. So hold on. So wait, you know what's still a profession? Going to medical school. And this is something I wanted to bring up later. Why would you go all the way to be a nurse practitioner, stop short 2 years just to be a nurse practitioner, when you'll have to go to medical school an additional 2 years and be an actual doctor? Why would you think somebody wouldn't do that? They would go to school 6 years instead of 8.
Well, look, if you have the talent and the discipline to become a surgeon, by all means, I think that's a particular sort of talent. I think that's a particular sort of personal discipline and motivation. And I think there are very few people who have those combination of traits to effectively do that. So, I mean, I think if you're one in whatever, how many thousand people who have those traits, great. I think there are very few people who have those combinations of traits to effectively travel that road. And most of your healthcare, particularly long-term healthcare, or any sort of healthcare, but especially long-term healthcare, is not going to be administered by physicians. It's going to be administered by nurses. You might see a doctor, a couple of times a week, if not fewer than that. But you're going to be seeing a nurse or several different nurses daily. So I mean, the way the system is set up, you need the nurses. There's shortages of nurses. I mean, here's the irony of what Trump is doing. Okay, so you're going to reduce the status and the viability of becoming a nurse, but then you're also sort of prohibiting people from coming, because many of the nurses, or much of how the nursing shortage has been supplemented by foreign nurses, particularly from, for example, the Philippines. Well, so are you going to limit, because the general policy of the movement of the Trump administration has been the reduction of immigration from non-white countries. So then are you going to sort of limit the sources of supplementing what are already shortages in the nursing profession in the U.S.? So how are you going to, I mean, it just seems to me to be in totality a setup for a lot of poor, browner people to not have the health care they need.
Bing, bing, bing. Honestly, I think he's doing this to target immigrants, to tell you the truth. That's my theory, though. But so what I'm just trying to, well, one more question for everybody. With what Uru just said, is a nurse practitioner necessary? And if you don't know, there's a registered nurse. There's the nurse that got her bachelor's degree and she's a registered nurse. And then there's the one who gets her master's degree and she's a nurse practitioner. Is a nurse practitioner necessary?
I mean,
was that a question?
Yeah, it's a question.
Look, I don't know enough about how all of nursing works to kind of make that presumption. I mean, I don't have any expertise in the administration of a hospital or the administration of a medical process. My presumption is that that position exists because it's a necessary part of the process of providing healthcare.
It exists to support the doctors. So basically, a nurse practitioner can take on some responsibilities of a doctor because doctors are thin at this point in time as well. Basically, a nurse is a doctor's assistant. That's what that role was built for, and that's actually what they do till this day. So if you think taking on a assistant's role ain't gonna pay you enough, but you like medicine, why wouldn't you go to school for 2 more years, get the loans you want, and be a doctor? And you actually mentioned why somebody was.
So then we shouldn't motivate people to become nurses?
No, it's fine to become a nurse. It's just that you shouldn't have the expectation that it has the same status as being a doctor.
I mean, I don't think even now nurses are considered to have the status of physicians. Not where I
mean, I know not you, but have you ever talked to any of these ladies out here in these streets?
I mean, I would say their attitudes is as if they should be considered doctors. I will give you that. You know what I'm saying? Nurses that I've been around, nurses that I've talked to, they do have, a lot of them do come with this attitude that they're better than the average person. The same way you would think, doctors and lawyers, the 2 main professions that people see as these great, better professions, they do take on that attitude. Now, have they earned that? I don't know about all that, but they do take the attitude on in a lot of cases. I will say that. So, but now I'm gonna say this though. When it comes down to it, if you already in position to pay your loans back, just pay your loans. And I'm gonna say this: when it comes to paying back loans, there's been efforts for people not to pay. I'm not saying anything about pulling the nurses out from all the other people, but there's a bunch of people who don't want to pay back their loans, and they talking about the government should forgive their loans and all kinds of stuff. There are people fighting for the government to let it go. Now, I'm gonna have to say no. If you took the loan, just pay it back. You got the benefit of taking the loan. Pay the loan back.
I gotta call bullshit on this. See, because to me, this is the dirty little secret about. I mean, every year, billions of dollars are not being paid through bankruptcy, and many, if not most of them, are very wealthy people. Our current president himself has been bankrupt several times, or entities of his have been bankrupt several times, where he himself has not had to pay back hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars, associated with failed business activities. The only difference between the student loan thing and all these other discarding of debt in this country is that our former most recent president, as then senator of Delaware, sponsored that bankruptcy bill that excluded student loan debt from being discardable via bankruptcy. And in my view, that law, as much as anything, has contributed to this problem. Because had you been able to include student loan debt into bankruptcy, it would have better controlled the exorbitant costs of schooling throughout the country. When the banks and the schools realized that you couldn't discard the debt through bankruptcy, well, let's charge these motherfuckers anything. Let's give them any amount of money. The reason why the student loans debt is so high because of what Biden did. If they had included bankruptcy in the student loan, it would have forced everybody to be much more cautious about loaning money out and all the exorbitant expenditures on schooling throughout this country. So, I mean, I don't see asking to not have to pay for a student loan. It's like all the other, right now as we're talking, there are thousands of people throughout this country trying to get out of paying debt in some bankruptcy court. While we're talking right now.
Now, I would 100% agree with you on that. But I will also say, I don't even believe bankruptcy should exist. I'm also that too. Why should anybody get out of their loan? If you borrowed it, you signed the paper, pay it back. That's simple to me. Nobody forced you to take a loan. You asked for it.
Look, I don't have any problem with wanting people to pay back their student loan. I don't have any issue with that. I just think there's a lot of moralizing on this whole pay back what you owe when all throughout this country, there are a lot of wealthy people who are not paying back what they owe.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you, Black Crew.
They're not paying back. So, but we're going to push, to me, it's kind of a, we're going to push down on the little broke Black folks. There's a whole lot of white people right now skating, paying back money they owe.
No. Black Crew, what I'm saying is, if it were up to me, nobody would get out of their loan. The white people would have to pay. Bankruptcy wouldn't exist if it were up to me. If you borrow it, you pay it back.
So in a corrupt system, I don't do that much moralize. I don't give a fuck if they don't pay it back. In a system where the other guy don't have to pay back, I don't care. It's just all a part of what the $39 trillion we owe anyway. And most of that a very small fraction of that student loan is student loan debt.
I don't disagree with you at all, Uru. I get it, but I don't. And you asked it earlier, and nobody was able to know. And I'm sorry, so if y'all can't hear me, let me know.
We got a couple questions I want to get out here. From Elder Blood asked a couple questions. I want to get some questions.
I'll just make this quick. People that we're talking about in this conversation don't have problems paying back student loans. That's what makes it so blasphemous. It'd be different if it was a group of people that had a high default rate. Nurses have a minimal default rate on their students. So why are they complaining about paying back debts? It makes no sense.
Yep. Bro, I don't know what Win telling you just went into, but that was very difficult to hear.
That Negro just jumped out of an airplane.
We was working with you at first, but we ain't hit you, bro. That's all I'm gonna say.
I'm gonna try to make this quick. I'm gonna just say they have a low default rate on their loans. So the group of women that we're talking about right now don't have a problem paying back their loans. It'd be different if the group of people we were talking about did. But this group of people, if they are able to get into the career, they don't have a problem paying the loans that they owe. They have a very low default rate. Really low, almost non-existent.
You're saying nurses have a low default rate?
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
I mean, so that further makes it. So then, why are we concerned with? So that to me, what that says is this ain't got nothing to do with money.
Right. That's what our point is. It's about status. Yeah. That's exactly what we're trying to say. The hypocrites is what we're trying to say for real.
I mean, Black, when I looked at all the different things I looked at, it was like money was thrown in to justify the complaining. I saw people complaining.
Here's how you know it wasn't really about money, or the government wasn't doing it because of money. Because if it was about money, it was about the billions of dollars in student loan debt, that would have been a headliner in this particular argument.
I mean, I think that's a good point. I think that's a very good point. So I don't think it's about money from either side. I don't think it was about money necessarily from the government side. I don't necessarily think it's about money from the people who complain side. It seems like money is just something that's thrown in to justify why they argue. And I'm gonna say, as I went out and talked to different people about what they feel about nursing no longer being classified as a profession, people who are not in the medical field didn't care. They just want to go to the hospital and get help.
Let me ask you this question. If they're paying back the loans, no matter how much money they borrow, right? If they're paying the loans back, then what's the justification for reducing the status of their position? How is that move benefiting society overall?
I believe there's a lie being told, and it's oversaturated. I think these nurse mills are putting out so many nurses that it is going to devalue it's going to devalue how much they're getting paid because there's so many of them.
Okay, so you base that on something what?
Like for instance, like with truck driving, like I drive trucks now. When I first started driving trucks, you could get CDL for like $1,500 to a couple $1,000. Now it's $6,000 to get one. They were saying it was a truck driving shortage when I first started driving. They're saying it's a truck driving shortage now. I drive all over the country. I promise you there ain't no shortage. It's a lie. And they're running up the money. They privatized it. You used to be able to get student loans to become a truck driver. You can't do that anymore. They privatized it, so you have to get sponsored by a company that's hiring you. So this is what they're going to do with the nurse's position. You're going to have to go get hired by somebody. They're going to sponsor you and pay for and subsidize your training so that the money comes from a different direction. It's a whole bunch of
this all that what you describe it all smells like white supremacy to me.
Hey, we've been living in it this long. Why change it up now?
No, I'm just saying it just seems like okay. Here's the next layer or the next feature of white supremacy, and that's fine if that's what you believe is a good. If you believe more white supremacy is a good thing, then okay.
No. I don't think more white supremacy is a good thing. I'm just saying, we've been existing in it.
Because whenever I hear anything about sponsorship of that sort, what I see is a white man. That's the very first image that comes to my mind. I see a white man.
I'm pretty sure the rest of us go see too.
It's too many niggas in the profession. We got to do something.
Exactly.
And you know what? As I said earlier, I do believe this may just be an elitist move. They're creating barriers without coming out saying that they're creating barriers. But let me let Shark Sims get in. Shark, you got it, my brother. How you doing?
Hey, what's up, fellas? How y'all doing today?
Man, doing all right, bro. I feel okay, so I may not need a nurse yet. I'm all right.
I was in the cloud listening to y'all, and honestly, I feel where Uvo coming from, except for the white supremacy thing. I feel where Truth Teller's coming from. I feel where all y'all coming from. But where I'm coming from is coming from where I'm at in New York City, having elderly people in my family, seeing them going to hospitals and having to go visit them and seeing how these nurses operate and what these nurses do, from looking at these nurses on the internet and what these nurses do while they're at work. Maybe having them pay more money or having them really have to pay for their occupation to get into that occupation will make them take that shit a lot more serious. But when you just letting people just jump in, you just helping people get into something, they're not taking it serious. And being a nurse is something that needs to be taken very serious. I had two people that I feel like didn't make it through because the nurses was just on their fucking phones, text messaging and taking their time to come to the room and doing. And it's like, is this a job you love? Is this what you really want to do? Because if you don't want to do this, this is people's lives. You need to go do something else. But when you just make it, you give them a profession like this, and they making $90,000 and they only pay $2 to get in, anybody will do the damn thing. So sometimes you get blessings and you don't even know that you're getting blessings. Because look at these 4 chicks on the goddamn screen. If my grandma was in the hospital, I'll be goddamn if they gonna be the nurse.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna say that there is something to that because healthcare is a profession that you should take seriously. Who can say you shouldn't take healthcare seriously? Because people's lives are at risk. Just point blank period. Now, I do want to get these in because these are by Elder Blood. He's been a great supporter for the show long time, so I want to get his questions in. He said, serious question. What is the social / academic / political status of nurses in other countries? Are they as renowned professionals as they are lauded in America? Almost, I ain't got no idea about that. I've never actually had a thought about that. I have no idea how they're seen in other countries. Anybody have an idea how nurses are seen in other countries?
No, I can't comment on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I would presume that they hold a similar status, relatively speaking. But other countries, in other countries, for example, healthcare is free or greatly reduced. So the comparability across countries is going to be different because you have very different socioeconomic systems. So a different socioeconomic system is going to treat all professions, including and especially any sort of healthcare profession, differently. In certain countries, a doctor may not necessarily have, quote, the esteem that they might possess in the United States because of the different socioeconomic system.
Yeah.
And how we think of people that get a lot of money, et cetera, et cetera. So I never been
Exactly. If you're not in a society where there's such a economic premium on the healthcare position, then the status of that position is probably going to be similarly lowered.
Yeah, and Americans, we look at some things in crazy ways because we do look at people with money in a particular way. We look at celebrities in a particular way. What kind of celebrity you are in a particular way. We do a lot of crazy off stuff. So I don't know if anybody's gonna have a viewpoint the way the American people is. Truth be told, he did say another serious question. Although unorthodox, unorthodox, that don't necessarily mean it's bad. So don't take this question as a jest. Okay, he lining us up, y'all. But I should highlight it. But he says, now I get it. Now I'm getting it. But shouldn't professional prostitutes fall under healthcare nursing profession?
Yeah, because they help diagnose depression. They help relieve pressure in your lower back.
He said, "Don't take this as a jest." It's literally right in there.
They definitely lower stress immediately.
Lower stress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You should be able to put a hole on your insurance plan.
I'm gonna say no. Why? Because you'd have to go through all of the medical stuff to say because of this it leads to this. So until they actually study some hoes to see what it can lead to from a medical scientific standpoint. I get what you're saying, but no, you'd have to have somebody would have to track this. You know, you have to have the data to back it up. I'll say that.
Maybe I think hoeing falls more under the trade
right.
than it does profession.
Wait, so what technical?
If I had to classify that level of work, I would classify it more as a trade.
So Uru, what technical school would she have to go through to get certified?
Exactly.
I don't know, but I'll come up with one.
And then would she have to get a HOSHA card? 32-hour HOSHA card.
Certain certifications. You have to get certain certifications.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm willing to be a part of the administration of that school. I'm willing to be a part of the administration. I'll sign off on these hoes. This
you
was
be part of the testing. The testing.
Roger want to teach you physical education.
Give the pop quizzes, the pop quizzes.
I'm just trying to make sure she knows what she's doing. No, she need a little bit more work. Huh? She good to go. She we're gonna have to send her back to class. All right. But I'm gonna say this. I do think status has a whole lot to do with why people are complaining. I don't want people to take that because I believe status is why people complaining and lose the fact that this just may be them putting nursing in an elitist position. Because that's what I see it as. I see it as a barrier. If you're not already a nurse and you don't already have access to that level of income that you can make in nursing, because nursing can make a pretty decent amount of money, as we've discussed. Well, you can't afford to go back to any schooling or get some type of certification, whatever the case is, to help get you to the next level because you're just not involved yet. If you're this high school girl, you just graduated, and you well, I'm going into nursing. Well, now how do you do it? Because the example one lady said was, the school I wanted to go to was $60,000 a year, but they're gonna cap me at $20,000 a year on the loan. What does she do?
So how bad do you want to be a nurse? Because if you want to be a nurse bad enough, you'll figure it out. But they don't. It's just a job to them, and that's not a job. That's supposed to be just a job.
If you come from a poor, how are you gonna get $40,000 a year to go to school? Now, if there are other nursing schooling alternatives, and hopefully, maybe, the only potential benefit I see to what is being done here, and I don't necessarily think it will happen, because that's not how things generally work in America. But the only potential benefit I see to doing this is if it puts some downward pressure on the cost of the schooling, if it compels the schools to reduce their costs, then I can see some benefit there. But that's not how things work in America.
Uru, you know how many you from back in the days? That's what they used. The strippers used to strip so they could get their nursing degree. These chicks can make $40,000.
It's only so many women. If everybody's stripping to get a nursing degree, you ain't gonna even make no money stripping.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how these four would have got a nursing degree if they had to strip to get the money.
I will say that, in my life and all the different people I've talked to about all the different things I've talked to them, so far I've only come across one woman who was stripping that claimed she was doing it to pay for school. Okay.
Well, no, a lot of them claim they're doing it to pay for school. And in some cases it's true. Some cases they lie. Sometimes they may have started with that being the objective, but then get caught up in the life of stripping. Mm-hmm. At some point, they did more than stripping, so to speak, and then you mix that with some drugs and alcohol, and and then they're on a different life track at that point.
Then
Nurse,
they in the technical school
yeah.
getting the whole
They're in the technical right. They're in the trade school at that point.
Well, technically, once you become a stripper, usually you learn a new trade. I was just gonna say, because to me that is being a full-on prostitute is the next step. That's just what it comes with at the end of the day. Now, and I know people get upset with that, but that's like the next step. Once you become a stripper, you're on your way to a prostitute. It just is what it is. Now I'm gonna say again, do people care? I care about my health. If I need a nurse, I just want to know the nurse knows what she's doing. That's it. I'm not gonna look at her and say she's not a professional. I'm not gonna look at her sideways. Now, are there some nurses out here who may have to adjust their attitudes because they're not seen as professionals anymore? I think that's what people are more worried about. Honestly, when I'm listening to the people, the money don't really seem to be a source of the issue. It seems to be, I can't talk crazy where I used to could talk crazy because I'm a professional. And now it's like, well, now I'm not a professional.
Well, I don't have again, I guess maybe because I technically have or at least used to have a profession. When is it out of turn for somebody to uphold and rep their set? I mean, if you spent your whole life building up to get to a certain position and having a certain status associated with that position, when has it ever been a bad thing to not want to maintain the status of your position? I mean, pull back on however you feel about nurses, pull back on however you feel about women. When has it ever been a bad thing to not want to uphold and rep your set?
I agree with you, Uru. Talk some sense into these young fellas, please.
So I mean, look, I'm old. I've kind of aged out of all this stuff, so it's not a big deal to me. But if I were 29 or something year-old CPA, I might feel a certain kind of way about, the accountant position, for example, being deprofessionalized. I may feel quite a way about it. So I mean, especially if I've spent much of my sort of developmental years preparing to ascend to that position and what I presume will come with that. And whatever advancement opportunities and et cetera that I presume will come with entering that profession. So I don't have a problem with these women saying, damn it, I worked hard. I went through a lot of shit. I borrowed a lot of money. I've invested a lot in ascending to this position. I want this position to be considered to mean something. What I presume it meant when I elected to go into this profession. I don't see anything wrong with that. I would view that similarly to any other profession, police, firefighter, whatever. That's how I would view that.
Well, to me, that makes sense. And like I said earlier, I'm not going to go into a hospital and start thinking something of a nurse just because she's quote unquote not a professional anymore. I'm there to get medical treatment. So all this stuff is not going to even flow into my mind. So it don't make me no never mind at the end of the day. I do think Black folks are way too much into status instead of being into results the way we need to be a little bit more into results. And I could totally understand if someone says, well, okay, well, you're no longer considered professional and you done put 5 years into being something. Yeah, I get it. But if you're not going to change how much I get paid, I don't think I worry about it as much. My thing is where the money at? Because whatever you do, are you getting the money that it makes sense for what you're doing? So if the nurses are getting the money, cool. Now, I think this could make nursing more valuable, and maybe they will get some pay increases because there'll be less people becoming nurses in the future. But my thing is, once stuff like that happen, then it starts to slide toward people who are considered financially elite, because now I'm not going to take a loan out to become a nurse. Now my daddy going to pay for it. I just think that's going to be the direction folks is going to head toward. My daddy got the money,
okay,
so
then how much of these elite white people is going to be tending to black people?
No, I mean, I've already accepted that we screwed, and
right.
I accepted that long time.
So I mean, I don't see the point of promoting something that I know my kind is going to be on the losing end of. I don't see the value in my doing that. Notwithstanding how I feel about, because I have, Shark made some points that were worth noting about the quality and the attention that or lack thereof that nurses will often give. I had some somewhat bad experiences before my mother died with some nurses when she was in hospice care, and they, I almost caused a ruckus, associated with that. But I can't use that experience for it to negatively affect my view of the oppression overall. And because I'm older, I got an uncle who might be on his way out, unfortunately, over the holidays or so. Over the so you and most of us nurses, black women, So I just, maybe because I'm old, I'm a little closer to myself at some point, being in a bed somewhere. I don't see how it benefits black people, including especially black men, to depress the profession of nursing. I don't see the benefit.
Now, shout out to Lawrence Ross real quick. He says, "Oh, you're Roger from the Roger Report. I'm gonna have trouble finding your vein today."
Oh, oh shit!
Look.
We're going to try the other arm. We're going to try the other arm. Oh, it didn't work there.
Man, I'm the guy that said I'm not going to look at them differently. And that's how you gonna do me. That's how you gonna do me. I'm the one guy saying, hey, whatever they do to your quote unquote status, I'm not looking at you any different. And you ain't gonna get my vein. Ain't that about nothing? The thanks I get, y'all. The thanks I get. But Jado has joined us, so I'm gonna go ahead and give it to Jado. You got it, my brother.
Hey, Roger, how you doing, man?
I'm doing okay because now the nurses can't find my veins.
Hey, salute, Black Guru. I think Emperor's up here. Salute to you. Yeah, I'm gonna be real quick, man. Like, nothing changes about these. They are still professions. It's just like what legal language or just language in the as far as what the federal government saying, hey, we're not giving you this much money. We're capping it at 20,000 per year. So nothing else changes about it. So these women out here like running their mouths about it not being, it's still the same. The qualifications still remain the same unless they start making changes about that. You still have to have a license. You still have to go through a board. Yeah, go ahead. Maybe
You got to look at this a little more holistically.
Okay.
Because once the industry, once the schools, once all the auxiliary activities associated with the profession know that there's less money coming into it, then there's going to be less investment in all related programs. It's going to be less investment in instructors. There's going to be less investment in updating techniques and development, in training. It's a natural thing. If all of a sudden you have a third of the resources potentially available to the training that you used to have, it's going to impact everything, not just the women themselves. It's going to impact everything associated with the profession, because everybody associated with it is going to view it as less viable from whatever they stand to get out of it.
I don't know. I just kind of look at it like, I mean, go get a private loan. And maybe, and then, like I said, I don't know, man. I just I see it as, and you very well maybe right, Black Guru, but I'm just saying at this point, like, yeah, nothing else is changed about it right now. They're just saying, hey, we're not giving you this much money. You're going to have to seek that money from a private entity. That's what it seems to me. Now, will it trickle downhill? Probably, maybe so. Yeah, maybe so. But I don't know, man. When I hear these, women getting on here complaining about it, I just don't see it that way. Just if you really want to become nurse practitioner or PA or anything like that, then you're gonna have to really tighten, buckle down, and really go after it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're gonna have to find a way to do it, or you're gonna have to choose another quote unquote profession or another job. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. Anyway, I just maybe I need to look at it a little more, but I just don't. I don't see it that way right now. I don't see anything right now changing anything about these fields.
All right, I'm gonna say shout out to Gregory Scotland. He says, Roger, Trump is hitting them in the knees without using physical violence. You know what? I'm gonna say this, y'all. When it comes to the idea that somebody getting hit in the knees because they talking about women gonna end up back in the kitchen and pregnant and all this type of stuff. I mean, to me, I look at that. You're talking about white women stuff. Cause ain't nobody really looking at black women like they're not supposed to work. Again, black men have always tried to put black women in a position where they didn't have to work. That has not been accepted by white men. That has not been accepted by white women, and has not been accepted by black women. So us putting women in position to be stay-at-home moms has been rejected by the main sources of this country as far as the people is concerned, because there's always been a certain dynamic going on between black people and white folks since this country has been established, and other people don't affect it as much. They just kind of play along with the white folks at the end of the day. So so I know this ain't about us getting women back into the kitchen, that's for sure. When it comes to a nurse, I do want the nurse to know what she's doing. Could they lower the price of schooling? They could, but are they going to? When's the last time you heard about deflation in America? That ain't how this normally works. It's really about inflation, not deflation. So they're gonna start deflating prices. It could happen, but I don't think people would let that happen. I think the American public has been trained so much to use loans that we'll never just let a price drop. And loans is a way for prices to stay high. Because at the end of the day, if we just stop buying a particular thing because they price it where we just don't want it to be, the price would have to drop. But because loans are available, we as an American society would never let people drop prices. We're not going to let them.
But again, we're talking about money, but they pay back the loans. That's what Truth Tellers say. So this ain't a financial issue. You're attacking a profession, and it's not a financial issue. It's not a financial issue. It's not a quality of care issue. It's certainly not you're not doing it to improve the profession, because the profession already has too few. There already are too few American nurses. So what are you actually trying to achieve here that's of any real actual benefit to Americans?
Wouldn't if they're known for repaying their loans, wouldn't the private lenders, I'm sure they have this info, wouldn't they step up and say, hey, we'll cover the $30,000, the additional $30,000?
Are those loans secured by the United States government?
Because that's a lot of money to give out when you're talking about somebody who got to go to school for
somebody with low or bad credit. No, or non-established credit, no family wealth whatsoever.
And now I'm gonna also be fair about this too, to say, see, I've never agreed with the government giving out money for people to get loans for school anyway, because I just don't see that as a government issue. I understand you got to have industries and things like that, but I don't think that's a government responsibility to loan you money so you can get a job. To me, that was never a government responsibility. You're supposed to get that on your own. I think a lot of things are skewed because we've had so many years of people getting away with stuff that shouldn't have been done in the first place. Everybody's supposed to get it out the mud, or you get it from your family.
Why is it the government job to build a subway system or interstate highway?
Well, my thing is,
why was that the government job?
Well, my thing is, anything that the government is doing, it should be for general welfare, which means it's for everybody. If it ain't for everybody, the government ain't supposed to be doing it. Now, you can make an argument
it's
the
not
highway
to
for
the
everybody.
society benefit to have an educated populace. Why do we have public schools? Why is it the government job to provide public schools?
I don't technically think it is.
I mean, if we can pay for so then it's not to the societal benefit to have an educated populace.
No. I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it's not a benefit. The thing is, if it ain't for everybody, it ain't really supposed to be a government responsibility, to my understanding. When you get to picking and choosing, then automatically the government is doing something that's unfair to the populace. The government is supposed to serve its populace.
Well, almost anybody can get a student loan that has qualified for college.
I just don't think the government should have been in the loan business in the first place. Let the banks and all that handle that stuff. We didn't need the government for that. The only thing that
why
they
can't
have
we
done,
make the same argument about elementary school or high school? Let the business community, let the local community of the businesses or whatever pay for that.
I mean, they could. I wouldn't necessarily be against that anyway. Because if you want somebody to work in something that you own, it's on you to make sure you got trained professionals, not somebody else. So that wouldn't mean nothing to me. Personally,
do you think Black people would have benefited, would have become educated people in that kind of system?
No, I think Black people have always benefited when they've been away from white folks. And at the end of the day, we're going to figure out what we need to do with or without them. That's what we've proven over time. Is when we get incorporated with them, we start having far more problems than we need.
Black businesses could have gotten together and paid for schools for Black people. They could have done that.
I mean, back in the day, they was doing that. But when things were segregated, they were doing it.
Who stopped them?
Well, I mean, people gonna always make different decisions because of certain things that's going on with government and all that type of stuff. Well, I'm just saying, I don't believe Black people gonna suffer because they ain't so close to white folks. I don't see that happening. But at the end of the day, a lot of people have been able to get away with a lot of stuff that they shouldn't have been able to get away with because of people who have been controlling stuff. Because just same way you talked about loans, and I said, as far as I'm concerned, there should be no bankruptcy. You an American who borrows some money, pay the American back. The government's job is to make sure you honor your agreement, not to make sure you dishonor your agreement. And what is bankruptcy? The government helping you dishonor the agreement that you made. That is literally the opposite of what the government's supposed to do.
I mean, I thought, don't your Bible have something called the Jubilee? Forgiveness of debt? Isn't that in your Bible?
That's religious.
That was created long before there was a United States government, right?
Yeah, but the United States government ain't governed by my Bible.
Okay.
I can forgive a loan.
So it's if I
lend you the money,
God to offer a Jubilee, but not for the government.
No. What I'm saying is, I mean that is true because that's a religious thing. The government is not under religion. The government's supposed to be non-religious.
So you think you can grow and maintain a modern society without bankruptcy?
I'm saying this: if bankruptcy never existed, it would have grew anyway.
Are you sure?
You can't stop humans from advancing as humans.
So you don't want no government. You don't want no bankruptcy. You don't want no government financing. So how are you making any major macroscopic move in society where all the risk is going to be on an individual to sink or swim with whatever tremendous investment he makes in that activity, certainly without any guarantee of return, high possibility of failure, and high possibility of sort of permanent cataclysmic economic impact?
Well, I think the same moves basically would have been made. It just would have been made a lot cheaper. Loans do help increase the price of goods and services. It's because loans exist that people are charging high prices in goods and services. If there was no bank loan, houses wouldn't cost $300,000. It just wouldn't.
Roger, we're not talking to each other right now without the benefit of part of that 38 trillion we owe. Part of that was invested in this system that we're using to talk through right now. We're not having this conversation without that $39 trillion of debt. Part of which had been invested and continues to be invested in this network we refer to as the internet. This whole damn thing is debt. And certainly the entity that we're talking on, Google and YT and debt all under that.
No, you are absolutely right.
But there is no major wide-scale system in a modern economic society, economic system that you can operate without tremendous amounts of debt.
No, I get what you're saying, but I also have to consider, would this stuff exist if the concept of debt never existed? And I'm gonna say yes.
No, you don't have this. You can't do this. You can't do any of this without debt.
No. If the concept of debt never existed in the first place, will we not invent stuff?
I think that the invention level would be severely depressed by the fact that in the end, I can't get any resources to scale up this activity. So all the risk is on me for failure. And if I'm not a Lucky Sperm Club member, a trust fund baby, when this fails, I'm ruined for the rest of my life. So I am not going to take that chance.
Okay. And I totally get what you're saying. And shout out to Big Mo. He said if the concept of debt never existed, we wouldn't have a society. And I don't believe that to be true. I think humans was going to be humans regardless.
We would not have this current modern society.
I do believe
it's just not possible.
I do believe the current players at the top would just be different. We were still gonna come up with stuff. We were still gonna make stuff. Stuff was still gonna be sold. People were still gonna eat. The players at the top would just be, they probably look a lot different.
I think people would survive, obviously, without it. Although, even in the past, you even had barter debt. You had essentially, you owe me X number of cows. So I had to borrow from the cow farmer to be ordered to finance my daughter being able to marry this guy. So I still got to produce X number of corn to pay off that cow debt so my daughter could get married. So there's always been some form of debt.
I'm not going to argue with that because I know it does exist, and there's always there's a good side to something existing, but there's a bad side to come with it too. And it's just we just in a society where collectively we've agreed that exists and is cool. So now my thing is, nurse is gonna still exist. So now, if you want to be a nurse,
right.
maybe
the biggest part of the debt in this country, exclusive of Social Security, which is a whole other issue, but much of it, or if not most of it, is associated with the military industrial complex. That's where your trillions of dollars have gone. I mean, we talk about a lot of stuff, that has nothing to do with the real issue. The real money is the 500 military bases on 100 different countries. That's where the real money is. Real money ain't in some nurses who pay back their student loans. Apparently, that's not the real money.
No,
the real money ain't there. We talk about student loan debt. It's a fraction. It's a fraction of the real debt of this country.
I wouldn't argue that, but I'm just saying, I'm consistently across the board. I don't believe in bankruptcy at all. So it ain't about who did it and what paper person got away with this and got away with that. I don't believe nobody should have ever got it. That's plain and simple to me. As an American, this was supposed to be an experiment, as they called it, where we supposed to make our own decisions and live by those decisions. If I borrowed the money, I will give it back to you. It's that simple to me. Ain't nothing for me to figure out. If I borrow it, I give it back. And whoever got rich.
Bankruptcy is like a blowhole on a whale. It's a necessary, vital release point in the economic system. It's necessary for people to run the risk to build and maintain the society. If you don't have it, you basically are going to have enslavement by the people at the very top of everybody else, because nobody dare take a chance to do anything major or significant, because failure will lead to their ruin. And it also creates a situation in which the people at the top will make the system even more difficult for you to ascend for competitive reasons. So you basically empower your enslavement of the majority of people by not allowing bankruptcy, because you allow people at the very top to basically have dominion over everybody else. They got all the money. They can totally dictate all the terms, the economic terms, all the terms of lending, all of that, which, by the way, is what Trump is basically doing here. It's not a coincidence that these are decisions that are being made by billionaires. That's not a coincidence. That's a top-down kind of decision making.
Absolutely.
You poor folks.
Oh, I absolutely. And that's why I'm saying from Jump Street, I think this is just, nursing in the field may start turning into an elitist field, in the next 5 to 10 years. We start seeing the results of people who, I'm just not going to go into nursing because I don't want to deal with trying to secure debt for me to go into nursing school a different way. This stuff is going to make an impact at the end of the day. But I am going to say, because of bankruptcy, that does have a lot to do with who actually became a billionaire and who didn't. It's got a whole lot to do with it. Because if people couldn't make certain decisions, they'd have never gotten in position to get the billions in the first place. So there's going to be good or bad that come with it regardless. If there was no bankruptcy, the billionaires would just look different. That's all I'm saying.
I think if the bankruptcy works for the system, it should have been allowed in the student loan debt, and then that would have compelled everybody to make better decisions across the board.
Yeah, and like I say, there's a lot of people who arguing this ain't got nothing to do with black folks. This is just about getting some white women back in the kitchen. It's just black folks getting caught up in something that ain't got nothing to do with us. They want some white women in the kitchen, and them not being able to become a nurse somehow is going to get them back in the kitchen.
The rest of us, when the white man, where were black folks when the white man had his women in the kitchen?
Oh, we was working. That's for sure. We was working.
No, I'm saying when he could have his white woman in the kitchen, we were out in the fields. When he could have the white woman in the kitchen, we were the nannies. We were the gardeners. We were the in this sort of mythical kind of return to 1940s, 1950s America. Where were we collected? We were sharecropping.
Well, my thing is,
because that's what my people were doing in the Mississippi Delta when the white women were, Leave It to Beaver and all that. They were sharecropping when my mom and them, they were sharecropping when Leave It to Beaver was on the TV.
Yeah, and what I'm saying, the argument is being made. We just getting caught up in their troubles. We just getting caught up in it. And as I said earlier in the show, black men been trying to protect their women from being out in the workforce for the longest, but that's something only black men want to do. Black women don't agree with that concept. White men don't agree with that concept, and white women don't agree with that concept. Now, I ain't gonna clearly say what everybody else thinks about it because I don't think enough has been said by other groups of people. But according to white women, white men, and black women, they don't want to be in our kitchens no way. So sometimes this stuff just don't be seeming as big a deal to me because I don't see where a lot gonna change with us. Is a less black women gonna become nurses now that these changes have been put in? Probably. But what's your chance of going to the hospital and getting a black nurse anyway? Because most of your nurses ain't black women.
It's fairly high from my personal experience. I mean, there have been very few times that anybody close to me have been in hospitals where they did not have black nurses.
I'm gonna say,
maybe if I'm in Utah someplace.
No, I just been saying no. You probably will get a black nurse because black people pretty much live in the same areas. So your chance probably would be high when you think about it, because black folks kind of live in the same cities. So yeah, you'll probably get a black nurse. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna say you won't.
I mean, let me tell you, there are some bad black nurses. There's some wonderful black nurses. There are black nurses that will see black people getting screwed over in healthcare and will alert them to that. That's been my personal experience. My personal experience, I've had black nurses advocate for people, family members and whatever. Had a situation with my mother-in-law where she wasn't getting the care she needed, and black nurse pulled my wife and her sister to the side and told them who to go to and who to talk to and who to write this letter to and whatever. Just don't tell nobody I told you, kind of thing. I mean, let me tell you, if there's any major reduction to black nursing numbers, I mean, I know what we like to do in this area, but if there's any major reduction to black nurses in the United States of America, it's going to be definitely some major increases to black folks dying.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure that's part of the plan. Now, shout out to Q Control. He says, "What you mean? Black women have always worked beside their men in the field, business and military, or at a job. Historically, black men were job insecure, so black women had to hustle too." I'm gonna say, bro, that's just a stupid comment. I literally said nobody agreed with black women not working. That was except black men. I literally said that. I said white men wanted black women to work. White women wanted black women to work. Black women wanted black women to work. So what are you talking about? I literally just said we never had it where they wasn't working. So what are you saying? Are you even listening?
Mm-hmm.
What are you saying? You asked me what I'm saying. You asked me what I mean. I mean they was at work the whole time, bro. That's what I mean. They were at work the whole time because white men wanted them working, white women wanted them working, and black women wanted them working. So they were at work the whole time. I don't understand what you don't understand. Now, yeah, there'll be some changes because, like I said, black folks kind of live in the same areas anyway. So yeah, you probably were getting some. You probably were getting some black nurses or whatever the case is, because a lot of us, we gonna live in a city where a bunch of black folks live in. So you probably are gonna get a black nurse. Now, yeah, you might get less black nurses in the future or whatever the case is. And that may be what the real change is when it comes to black folks. But outside of that, unless you are personally going into nursing yourself, what's really going to change?
I mean, but you say outside of that.
I mean,
outside of black folks dying, hey, everything's gonna be all just.
Bro, I have come to the realization a long time ago, if I don't keep myself healthy, I'm dead anyway.
Yeah.
Now, my thing, I just try to look at stuff from a realistic standpoint. These folks ain't really gonna help you like that. Now, I'm not putting down nobody in the medical field. I'm not saying ain't nobody trying. I'm just saying the best attitude to take in life, you better make sure you live yourself. Other people can only do so much. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, you can, have your arm chopped off and you need a doctor, you need a surgeon at that particular time. I'm not saying stuff don't happen. Stuff does happen.
To me, it's odds and percentages. Because that all sound well and good, Roger, until you sick. Or worse, a child of yours is sick. Then all that philosophical bullshit goes out of the window because you're in the hospital, your child is crying or you crying, and all you looking and hoping and praying for is somebody to help you. And whether some decent nurse who just happened to be black come by and tell you this or give you this recommendation of that, that's the only thing that's going to matter in that moment. And so I view it from a macroscopic standpoint, odds and percentages. Where am I most likely? What kind of scenario is most likely to help me and my kind to survive? Now, if you want to declassify some social workers or some paper pushers or some bullshit ass profession that black women tend to occupy, if you want to declassify some bullshit sociologist or psychologist kind of thing or whatever, okay, whatever. It's somewhat intangible and maybe even questionable, the value of it. But somebody who might actually help to keep you, quote, alive, I gotta go with them people. I gotta go with them people, especially given the history of this country, where the whole history of this country has been about, we don't even have universal health care because white folks don't want black people to stay alive. That's the history of this particular country. So I can't be a part of some white billionaires saying, yeah, it's good that there are fewer people who might help keep them alive. I can't be a part of it.
I'm not going to be a part of it. I've been saying the whole show, I'm not looking at nurses in no different way. Because if you end up at the hospital, you're going to care about what's going on with your health. I'm not worried about where they got their degree from. I'm not worried about whether they're considered a professional or not. I just want help because I'm hurting or I'm sick. I need some pill.
But if the environment decreases the probability that you're going to get that help, that's a whole different thing. It ain't just about what you want or what you think or how you view what a nurse is or isn't. If that profession is depressed, economically, if that profession is depressed in terms of its stature and its ability to maintain and finance itself, at some point, that's going to be visited upon you or your kind. That's the history of this country. That's why you have Meharry Medical College and these kind of places, because black folks, they didn't even want black people in medical colleges. That's why Howard has a medical school, because they didn't want black people to become physicians. So it ain't just about what we personally want. We are part of an ecosystem of things. We stuff feed on us and we feed on it. We contribute to it. I am all for black nurses to have the highest esteem, because to the extent that it will draw even more talented women or men, frankly, I think we need more men and maybe even more black men in particular to become nurses. I'm all for that. I'm all for them having that position and esteem and getting their money. Because like I say, to me, the money is not wasted on the nurses. The money is wasted on the pencil pushers in the healthcare industry. It's not wasted on the nurses.
I mean, I can agree with that because I ain't got no problem with the nurses. I don't have a problem with nurses getting paid. And, you know, according to what I've looked at, nurses a field you can go into and make a lot of bread. You know, like I started saying something about the different nurses telling me what type of salaries they make. And the cheapest one I remember, she was telling me about 85 grand. So I think if you make it 85 grand, you're doing decent. So now if you're already in a position and you already got the money coming in and you need some more schooling, yeah, just pay for it and keep it pushing. At the end of the day, you're already there. I think this is an issue for the girl that's still she's a senior in high school right now and she want to go into nursing. Yeah, it's an issue for her because what's her pathway at this particular point? That's a whole different thing. So I think, yeah, they're going to veer off into different fields. Are they veering into somebody's kitchen? Probably not. You know, do I even think that's going to happen on a large scale with the white folks? I kind of doubt it, truth be told. You know, I think, possibly you'll have a percentage of white women who will say, well, let me just go and get married then rather than be trying to be out here in the job market. But I don't think because nursing ain't necessarily the readily available, easy thing to get into that women just going to be like, well, I ain't just going to get no job at all. I'm just going to get some man and get pregnant. I don't think that's the America that I live in. I really don't believe that. But let me give it to No Placeholder because he just came up. No Placeholder, you got it, bro.
Sorry for the lateness, Roger. I really was. I was here for the study, but I'll throw my 2 cents in since you already got me up. Well, how you doing, Uru? What's going on, J Lo? And Donald J Slaps. But yeah.
How you doing?
So I do agree with the gentleman. Go ahead, Roger. What you say now?
No, I'm sorry. I was just laughing at when you said Donald J. Slaps. That's all. I had to say his name.
Yeah. So I do agree with Uru overall assessment. I do have a lot of people in my family that are nurses, just like you fellas. We both come from from my background in New York. If you're from the Caribbean and you have a mom, chances are she's a nurse. That's it. So or somewhere in the healthcare field. But so yeah, I do think it is about money. At the end of the day, when it is kind of obvious that it is about money, in my opinion, because going from an unlimited, because I heard someone say that you can pretty much borrow as much money as you need to, or hundreds of thousands of dollars. So and I mentioned this before. I've encountered people that use the money to actually live and study, and I'm saying, and they do pay it back because our truth teller is right. They do pay it back, but being able to borrow your tuition and borrow, because there are ways for you to justify your living expenses and other things, whatever. I'm saying, are you ways for you over borrow, and then when you over borrow, they give you the disbursement of the over borrow. So I'm saying, so it is about money. I don't know if directly it's about. It probably is have something to do with the women having access to that money, because it is true that what allowed them to be in certain position was government program and the government allocation of money. So this is a dramatic change in terms of like even the example you mentioned about the 60,000 versus going to a program that costs 60,000 and only getting 20,000. It's difficult for you to get like unsecured loans in a way that I'm saying in a way that it's that big. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about like you'd have to be charging people like credit card interest rate, Roger. You know what I'm saying? Because like that's one of the reasons why if you I don't know if you went to college, but when I went to college, if I had to get private loans, that's not how it worked, bro. I didn't go to student services. I just say, hey, I want a private loan. They were like, yeah, you want, yeah. And then they call up my parents and they had to send in their tax form, they had to send in this, they had to send all that stuff in and saying they had to basically indicate what they own their properties and then they allow the private loan to go through. And these private loans are backed by people like Citibank and all these other things. So you're not going to get interest rates that are different than what I'm saying. So it's a lot of elements to it, Roger. And so I agree that this is going to prevent a lot of women from being nurses because you know what I'm saying, it's just difficult to do otherwise. You'd have to do like what men do, which is you get the 20,000 and then you work and go to school. So that's right here. I'll end there.
And I'm gonna say, let's keep it real. The lenders ain't finna loan this money out. So, you know what I'm saying? I mean, yeah, you get 20,000 from the government, but you need another 40,000 go to this $60,000 a year school. What lender is gonna bet all this on you? I mean, yeah. So yeah, I don't see it happening that way. So I do believe the number of nurses is going to start to decrease because other girls, when you're a high school girl, you got to think about your career, what you want to do, and people gonna start presenting these numbers to you. You're just gonna pick something else at the end of the day. Now, the people who are already in the field, I think they'll fight a little longer because they already into it. They already got a career in there and stuff like that. So yeah, they'll make some level of a fight. But if you the 18-year-old trying to figure out what you about to do with your life, and somebody start presenting you these numbers. I don't even think women think about money the way men think about money. You just gonna pick something else. What nursing was cool, I just do something different, But to not have a career or not have a job, I just don't think that's the world that we in. Is this gonna skew women back into the kitchen? I just don't see that happening.
But Roger, not to cut you off, but I don't think they're going to go back into the kitchen. But I mean, saying, what did they say? Something about something is a necessity of what the term invention or whatever. Something about necessity. I forget it. But anyway, the point being is that the women, you can't be in less $40,000, Roger, and don't come up with a general formula. You know what I'm saying? Like this is you get what I'm saying? Like this is a dramatic blow to their bottom line. You're losing 63% of your funding. So I'm saying you need to make tremendous adjustments. So what I mean by that is if you decide to not pursue that field and not pay the 60,000 and find a way to get an additional 40,000, you will not be making 90,000, 85, $100,000 a year, Roger. You know what I'm saying? And then what happens then? That changes the complexity of your entire life. Now you got what I'm saying? So they may not be back in the kitchen per se, but they might find themselves in a relationship. So,
I mean, if if they don't go get into a relationship because they can't be a nurse, that ain't no relationship you want no way. That's what I'm gonna believe. I don't think nobody wants to be in that relationship. Because
I know what you're saying, Roger. But they're just making it so that the women, not to cut you off, sorry, but they're just making it so the women have less available to them, and that by definition is going to change how they move. It's just the way it is, Roger. They're not going to work at McDonald's and make a $40,000 a year. And most of them are not going to be in a scenario where they're actually going to work. I'm saying a night and then go to school in the daytime or go to school at night and work in the day. I'm saying very few. So.
Yeah, I don't see a whole lot of women signing up for that. Just realistically, I'm not saying there ain't gonna be some women that won't do that, but I just don't see that as most of them doing that. They do like to do things conveniently, so that's a very real thing. If anything, I would think that somebody gonna have a baby a lot quicker. Somebody gonna try to get on government assistance who may have never wanted to get on government assistance. I don't think the choices are going to be some easy choices, and they're going to do what a lot of people would consider the smart thing. They're going to do what's the most convenient. And unfortunately, in this society, if you really got a problem with something like this, ain't you just going to go get pregnant? Ain't that the next easier thing? Because you either pick a different career or you just go get pregnant. I mean, that part still exists. Does it not?
You don't go to school or lay on your back. They're gonna revert back to good or reliable.
Well, I mean that's
go back in their way.
That's ultimately been there for so long that a disruption in a certain field like nursing, at the end of the day, if you're a young woman, you ain't in the workforce yet. You gotta make these decisions about what you're gonna do with your life. Even if you white. I'm not saying this is just gonna be some black woman thing. Well, you know, if I have a baby, I'll get this, that, and that. And I ain't got nothing to worry about. Why wouldn't they just go get pregnant? Now, is this gonna mean relationships gonna happen between people? Are they gonna be back in somebody's kitchen? No, because I can get government money if I just go get pregnant. So if anything, ain't you encouraging them to have a bunch of babies without fathers?
But not if I simultaneously cut the government program. If I simultaneously cut the government safety net, then what happens? Then the only safety net you really have is the man.
I ain't gotta have a bunch of babies, just have one or two.
Like I said, Roger, the whole point is that they're trying to squeeze them into a corner. That's all. That's what they're doing, Roger. They're trying to squeeze them into a corner, make them make a decision. That's what they're doing. I'm serious about it. Like, we're gonna put you in a corner. We're gonna make you make a decision. So we're taking away all the stuff we did. Yeah, sir.
As
Go
the
ahead.
birth rate keeps plummeting, they're gonna have to corner them.
That's what they're doing. They do it. That's what I'm talking about, Donald. We appreciate the job you do, by the way, sir. Listen, thank you.
You're welcome. Trying to make the world great again. One nurse at a time.
Look, I think nursing should be a respected field. Okay, because they are helping people get healthy. We all want to be healthy at the end of the day. That's why I ain't never tripped about somebody saying a nurse makes some money. Why shouldn't they? You know, people want to be healthy. Who don't want to be healthy at the end? Like, you know, we would give away money to be healthy. You could be as rich as I don't know what. You would give millions of dollars away to be healthy. So I don't see it as that big a deal. I'm not going to look at a nurse differently because they're declassifying her degree as professional to non-professional. I need a nurse. I need a nurse. It's that simple to me at the end of the day. So,
Rod, the plumber needs to wife. This nurse could have been his wife, but she's picking at him like, sure, he's just a plumber. Now the plumber gets to look at her like, yes, he's a plumber. Bend over here.
And that's why I think there's too much ego stuff going on in all this. Because at the end of the day, if I need a plumber, I need a plumber. I'm not gonna look at him as he's a lowly person and he can do the thing I need done. To me, that has never made sense. I've never bought into status the way other people have. I've bought into people accomplishing things. I've bought into people giving great efforts, but I've just never bought into status like that. I don't think it's intelligent or healthy. What you say?
A man.
Well, I mean, it's men. Go ahead,
Roger.
You're using your male brain. We're talking about hoes, man. Because irrational. You got to slap the table. You got to slap the table on them to get them back in line. And that's what I'm doing. Donald J. Slap, number 48.
So Roger, I do want to push back a little bit on your status argument. There is a bottom line to this, like Guru said, it's a macro. These women are it's going to be difficult for them to basically be nurses. As much as I understand, everyone said not much has changed, but money has changed. And you know what I'm saying, Roger, when money changes, a lot of things change. Come on, Roger. If you're getting paid whatever amount of money and somebody cut it by 66%, you're going to notice it, Roger. And it's going to change the complexity of the entire life after that.
Oh,
so I agree.
I don't, you know, I don't see a problem with somebody wanting to be considered to be professional if they do, you know, I mean, and if you want to give some status to plumbers, I'm sure in some areas, you know, whatever, being a plumber has some status to it. I mean, I don't, if they're good nurses and they're dedicated, you know, hardworking, dedicated, they believe in their profession, they believe in the enhancement of their profession, and if they have their ego invested in that, I don't see a problem with that. You know, I would, you know, I mean, there's certain ego, social status would be in, for example, a police officer. I don't see a problem with, the status of being a police officer or a state trooper, a highway patrolman or whatever. There's a certain status to that. Oh, he's a police officer, or he's I don't have a problem with people being proud of some sort of esteem associated with their profession. There's nothing wrong with that. And again, it's any environment I've seen, people have whether it's a whatever fraternity or sorority or what school they graduated from. Or I graduated from Notre Dame, for example. I don't have a problem with people graduated from De La Salle High School. I don't have a problem with people being proud or having some pride associated with their profession and where they come from. And if that status, the quote profession of nursing, attracts other talented, skillful young people, motivated young people, that's a benefit to society. It's a benefit to society for some 18-year-old girl who has, high SAT scores and a grade point average and say, I'm going to become a nurse. That there's a societal, because there's a higher possibility that 5 years from now, whatever, when that girl becomes a nurse, she's going to know what the fuck she's doing when she's in the hospital somewhere.
Well, what I'm saying is the people who are not in the medical field don't seem to look at these people in any different way.
Well, I think that's foolish of them. I think it's foolish of you to not want to think that you're dealing with the highest trained, educated person possible for that job. And you do associate that with education. You do associate that with training, with investment in preparation and certification. It's foolish for you or your, and especially if you got your children or some other loved ones in the hospital. Yeah, you should want that person to brandish whatever sort of extra training and education and pedigree associated with the profession. That's why you have membership in this and board certification and that. That's all about status. But with that status comes some presumption of some higher level of training and preparation and dedication.
Well, what I'm saying is, when I ask people who are not in the medical field, are you going to feel differently about people because they have this new classification that nurses aren't to be considered professional anymore? What I'm saying is the people didn't look at this as anything different. They still got the same respect for the nurse
and
that they had beforehand.
Listen to me. I'm saying long term that is foolish. That's foolish thinking. It's foolish because what you're accepting over the long term is a degrading of that profession. And again, if we're talking about sociology or anthropology or some bullshit like that is not at all going to touch any of our lives or whatever, okay, that's fine. Who cares? But all of us are going to be in a hospital and a clinic someday. All of us. All of us at some point going to be in the hospice or something like that, where every day we continue to live or live comfortably is going to be dependent on somebody who's called a nurse. Every one of us is going to be in that position. I don't want nobody fucking with that position. I don't want nobody fucking with that position in an industry where there's a shortage of. There's a shortage of nurses. And if there's a shortage of nurses overall, what's the likelihood that shortage is going to impact Black folks, especially most of us who are poor or just middle class in terms of our socioeconomic background? What's the likelihood that we are going to be negatively impacted by that?
Elder, let me say this. There's also a shortage of wives. There's also a shortage of babies being born. You know what I'm saying? You'll give these hoes jobs that now they want to hold it over men there and call all men trash. We don't need them. Who need the men anyway and all that. And at something I feel, and I think that powers that don't want these nurses to leave decided that, yeah, we don't sacrifice a few nursing for some room. And I guess.
Well, my thing is this though: are you gonna be able to equate not having a nurse to having a wife? Like those two things, those two things ain't gonna correlate like that.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
And don't get it twisted. Like I said, when I looked into this, a lot of folks did make this argument that women gonna somehow be back in the kitchen because they can't be a nurse. That argument don't really make sense to me. I'm gonna say that if women goal is to be independent, then I don't see how not easily becoming a nurse gonna change what their personal goal is. They're just gonna do something else. It won't be a nurse. They'll just do something else.
But in the long run, they're gonna have fewer options.
Once you decided that you want to be independent, your option ain't gonna include men regardless.
That's the thing. They're gonna be the president of America. No problem. You can't be a nurse. You don't have your wife. You don't have them kids. Then you jump off in the blitz. $40 house.
Now, I believe that white men are concerned about their birth rates. I'll give that. I do believe that white men are concerned about white women having white babies. I do believe that's a real thing. Okay? But stopping a woman from being a nurse, I don't think it's going to solve that. Once a woman has the idea she wants to be independent, which means she wants to do it without a man being there or without a man being a significant part of the process, you can't change her mind state. She's not going to be involved anyway. So that's why I just don't see it as a correlation. Once she decided I don't want to be involved with these men like that, she don't want to be involved regardless of what her occupation is.
And okay, Roger, so people, the power, they will profit. By any means necessary. And whether they like it or not, you can't crush them. They know what levels to do. They know what is crushed. Something has to give, gentlemen. I need to say it. Something has to give. You can't have to give. You run away classes of women for collaborate with them, to go with the family, to go with the children, and also a functional society. Something has to give. I think Brad said everything else. We gonna drag those back to the kitchen and keep them straight.
Okay.
But most importantly, with their belly full of babies. Cares.
Well, Black Rule, since you're an expert and you here, okay, accountant was on that list too to be classified as a non-profession. do you think? Well, I mean, is accountant a women-dominated field?
Not dominated. Probably right now, sort of edging towards, just because there's just generally more women attending college in general. So it's probably the majority are probably female. I would say certainly within the last 30 years or so, but not anything close to, I guess,
Okay. So we say it might be heading in that direction. Heading that direction.
Close.
Okay.
But my wife's an accountant, Roger. So I can actually I said her boss is a female. Her entire department is female. The only person that's male is the director and the CFO. And you know what I'm saying? But like this, the managers was a white woman. She's a senior accountant. Another senior accountant is a white woman. The accountant coordinator is another white woman, and they have a couple other people. And you go to other departments, like what they do, like not just accounting, like finance, like purchasing, and all the other things. Women over there too, bro. I'm saying.
Okay, I mean they're everywhere now. You know what I'm saying? For the most part, anyway. For the most part, yeah. I know there's certain things that women just don't want to do, and outside of those jobs, they don't mind getting into just about anything else. It's just some stuff, physical labor, things like that, or some stuff too much responsibility. They don't necessarily want to be involved in. But it's plenty of women in plenty of situations. That's why I don't necessarily think that. I mean, maybe this is planning for the future, Because I don't think any woman right now who has the ideal of being independent is finna just, hey, let me go find some man and get up under his program. I just don't see that happening anytime soon. I don't see it happening to the people that's technically alive today, per se, unless you're talking about some people maybe who are just being born. Because like I said, you know, if you're a young girl, if you're a senior in high school right now, you know, this ain't going to change your perspective about the world. It may get you to stay out of nursing. I'll give you that. But I'm also say this is going to also make it harder for men to get into nursing too. Like the same rules the women have to deal with, the men going to have to deal with those rules too. And we're going to need some
Those
nurses
guys,
out there somewhere.
the male nurses already do what I was telling you, Roger. They would go to nursing school and do something else. Men really incur excessive debt. What I'm trying to say, Roger, is like the girls would borrow excessive amount of money so they can pay for school and pay for their lifestyle. So they literally just study. They like it comfortable like that. Or they minimize the amount of work they have to do. They might have a part-time job and they borrow a large amount of money. Most of the guys, they basically will take the 20, I'm saying, or maybe even borrow less than that and basically try to pay the rest. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, you might, men are more likely to have done something else before they've done nursing, where they might have saved money or had some resources going. So then when they go into nursing, they're not, you know, they're more likely to be a little more financially secure when they make that decision than women.
Yeah, and I do got to give credit. When men borrow money, they do tend to borrow more of what I actually need to get the thing done that I'm trying to borrow the money for, other than let me borrow some extra just so I can have it and do some stuff that may come up in the future. So, you know, I grant you that. Is it going to be so
look, I mean, I can see, you know, correcting certain things, but in a profession where there's shortages, I mean, there's I don't know if there's any shortages of accountants, but there's shortages of nurses, right? So, and we know there's depression, particularly with respect to Black healthcare. I mean, we know that's no secret anywhere. So, you know, I'm just kind of focused on the healthcare aspect. And I don't see any benefit to Black people for there being less potential help for us. Now, we're going to have some sort of compensating thing where there are more Black men who become nurses and more Black men who become doctors, and hopefully that is the case, then I might view this situation differently. But I'm just visualizing Black folks being in the hospital and ain't no nurse coming because they ain't there. Or there are far fewer of them there.
Black folks, you know what I mean? We are market. It's not black. It's them trying to right back to that. Of course, they don't catch some. We all in their backyards. We all in their backyards and they're shooting at each other. So we don't have to duck and dive.
Well, unfortunately, I think you know, in the next 10 years, maybe we have a lot more deaths than we were looking for, and some of this stuff really starts to go into effect.
No, I agree with you that there will be some reduction, but at the same time too, I also see an opportunity for private lenders to just get maybe a couple points more on the loans because yeah,
I mean, they gonna get more than a couple more. These are unsecured loans.
I'm just trying to say
these are gonna be almost like credit cards.
I agree.
So I mean, so basically, I mean, come on. These will not be like, you know, these will not be like government-backed debt. This shit will be like credit card debt. This will be like, you know, 18% interest rate plus on this shit.
That's
So
crazy.
so
More
so
than $100,000.
if they weren't defaulting on them before, they sure as hell gonna default on.
That's crazy.
Oh,
And you get no forbearance. You don't get any
Exactly. You fuck.
deferment. You don't get none of that. And on top of that, here, like,
You
on
are
top of that,
you're
you don't get to write off your.
$500,000.
And on top of that, you know that you can. Let's get you Roger, but you can write off your student loan interest. You know that if you pay taxes, you can actually, and you're in a certain tax category, you can write off the interest on your student loans. You know, actually, all you paid is the principal.
I guess I'm
Yeah.
gonna stop. I'm gonna go become a nurse. I'm gonna put it on my credit card.
Yeah, it's a whole different world, Roger. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Like, think of what I just mentioned to you. If you literally, if you incur $5,000 to $6,000 a year in interest on your student loan at the government rate, which is like 7 to 8%, maybe 5 or 6, depending on what kind of loan you got. Even if when you incur that $5,000 to $6,000 of interest, if you pay $10,000 to $15,000 a year in taxes, you get to write that off on your taxes, bro. So in all actual reality, I'm saying this is a boom, Roger. You're literally getting borrowed $100,000 and you're paying back the $100,000 over 30 years only. You may look like you're paying more, but if you do it properly and you do your taxes properly, you end up just paying back that $100,000. Especially if you're a single mom or stuff like that, they literally they end up just paying it back. Right? It's a massive boon for them, Roger. You understand what it's like to borrow the debt, get your life, get the degree, then get the money, and then on top of that, based on how the tax structures are designed, you can actually just pay back the $100,000 at the base anyway. You know what I'm saying? So it's like now you're not gonna be able to get that, Roger. You're not gonna be able to get that at all because Citibank is not gonna give you $100,000 at 8% or 5, 6% interest. Number two, they're not gonna make you write those interests off when you do your taxes. They don't care about that. You know what I'm saying? So is that what I'm saying? So
I know they ain't getting
so
the
like,
loan in the first place. Yeah, I know that's just not gonna happen. Not in this world. That's just not about to happen. So I agree with you. Now, shout out to Maurice November, y'all. I appreciate the Cash App. He sent in a $15 Cash App. Said tuition, man. Hey, appreciate you, big time, brother. Appreciate you, big time. Thanks for coming up when you did. Appreciate you. Shout out to Andrew Baker. He said the black woman's ego is always out of control. Good show. And he dropped $10 on the Cash App. Thank you very much, my brother. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And yes, I do think ego had a lot to do with the people ranting, and I do think people throwing in the money situation is just something to justify their arguing. Shout out to Jay Bones. Appreciate it. He hit me with $5 on the Cash App. Appreciate you, Jay Bones. Real talk. And I'm gonna say this. Now Black Root does make a point about repping your set. Whatever it is you do want to rep your set. You know, you want to take pride in whatever you are at the end of the day, y'all. You know, if you're a carpenter, you want to be a proud carpenter. If you're an electrician, you want to be a proud electrician. You know, if you're a baseball coach, you want to be a proud baseball coach. Whatever you do, you want to take pride in what you're doing. You definitely should take pride in nursing. I'm going to say shout out to Shark Sims. I am going to say he made a very good point about nurses being preoccupied a little too much. Now, if you at work and you're a nurse, yeah, I don't like the idea of you being on your phone when you should be looking at these charts. You know, put your phone away a little bit. I understand an emergency can happen at home. You know, put an emergency ringtone on there. Certain people, sure, I totally understand you answering your phone. If your mom called or your dad called, these are people who probably respect the fact that you have a job and wouldn't normally call you during working hours. Even for the ones who got children, whether you're married or single, I can respect your children answering your children's call, but they should have enough respect to not call you about nonsense during your working hours because you are a nurse. So, you know, I think there's room to give a little bit when it comes to people in nursing. I'm going to say I do appreciate nurses because, again, if I end up at a hospital somewhere, I want to be around some people who know what they're doing. Now, I always give women credit for knowing what they're doing if they're a nurse. I've had some male nurses. I give them credit for knowing what they're doing. I assume that you at the hospital, you are certified in what you're doing, and I'm not afraid that you're going to do some type of something that's going to injure me. Those are not my concerns when I'm at the hospital. I have full confidence in anybody who's helping me medically. I have full confidence, and I think I should be able to have full confidence in anybody helping me medically. Is these changes going to somehow destroy the quality of medical service that we're gonna get? I'm gonna say I hope not. I really hope not. I don't have that as a concern. You know, Black Rule, you saying some stuff that could be a little scary when it comes to these contexts, because I don't want the quality of health to go down. Who wants the quality of health to go down? I mean, it's health. At the end of the day, we want that more than anything else. Because again, people will give away millions of dollars if they knew they could live another year or two. You know. So we all want good quality nurses to depend on. I think the ego part needs to be put aside, and I think Black women should try to figure out something, because a lot of Black women do seem to go into nursing. I'm gonna say that. Maybe y'all should holler at Oprah, and don't even take that as a joke. Oprah is a billionaire. Oprah could own some level of school, make a profit, and help y'all get y'all nursing degrees. Maybe we need to holler at Oprah on this one, y'all. She'll do something for Black women. You know. Now, if you're a brother and you want to become a nurse, I'm not saying you should holler at Oprah. I don't know if it's going to do anything for you, but these women, Oprah might help them. You know, I'm just saying she might help them. You figure out a way that she can make money on helping them, she might.
Right. They gonna vote for the Dems. Dems gonna come right back in there and reverse all this. They're gonna have to be professional about 2 to 3 years, maybe 4 years. Trust me.
Well, maybe this gonna change the game so a Democrat can get a role as president. Because right now I don't know who's gonna replace Donald Trump. Your guess is as good as mine. If it ain't gonna be a Republican, that's what I'm gonna say. I'm not saying I want a Republican to win, but I've already come to the conclusion that J.D. Vance is gonna be our next president. I've already concluded that. Now we'll see as time go on if that would change. Now I said that when Trump got elected, that Vance was gonna be the next president. So yeah, I said it 4 years early. We'll see if something changed, but that's how I see it going anyway right now.
I heard a different theory. I heard a theory that said it's almost certainly going to be a woman, and it's going to probably be a Democrat. But yeah, and the theory is based on the fact that a lot of people was upset with the Democratic Party and they sat down, and now they're getting their just deserve, and they're like, so you say everybody's going to vote next time around, right? I'm letting you know that all the Democrats are going to vote next time around, every single one of them.
Well, the Democrats have clearly made a decision that the next president for them will be probably a Black woman. They've already had made that decision. You know, hence Kamala Harris. You know what I'm saying? That decision is far gone. They're gonna put them a Black woman in office no matter what America wants. You know, so now is that going to work out right? Who knows? Will this particular situation about people's professional degrees give the Democrats some room to get in there? Maybe this will be the thing that tick people off enough that a Democrat will have a chance. Maybe, because people do a lot of crazy stuff when it comes to politics. If you ask me, I don't know. I'm gonna close it out, but I'm gonna say, y'all, hey, I respect my nurses. I believe that y'all are highly medically trained people that I should be able to trust, and I trust y'all if I need you, I trust you. It's that simple. I don't want to live in a world where I got to second guess my nurses. I'm gonna say that. Could some of them have better attitudes in life? Absolutely. But we could say that about people in all industries. But yeah, if I show up and I need help, I want my nurse to know what she's doing. Real talk. And that's just it. Now, I think the Asian guy who said, about the doctor disappeared, the nurse will keep it going for. I don't know about all that, man. I ain't gonna say I'm trying to. I ain't trying to go too long without no doctor either, but I do respect the nurses. Any last words that anybody wants to say? Okay, I'm gonna take that as a no. All right, y'all. Well, if you want to continue to listen to the best show on social media, we do this 9 a.m. Monday through Fridays, y'all. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, but be here at 9 a.m. Chicago time, not where you live, Chicago time. We'll see y'all next time around. Long live the habitual line steppers. I'm Roger. I'm right. And I'm out.